Chapter 125. After all, the Wang clan was only a small power. Their ancestor was only interested in killing demon beasts, so they didn't have many books. Regarding special constitutions, the Savage Sun Palace was the most knowledgeable in Zhao. The core inheritance of the Savage Sun Palace was body tempering techniques, so they were the most knowledgeable about special constitutions. If it wasn't for the enmity between the Wang clan and the Savage Sun Palace, sending Wang Daoyin to the Savage Sun Palace would be the best choice. The current situation wasn't very likely. He could only capture a cultivator of the Savage Sun Palace when his cultivation was high enough, and refine him into a clone to pry into the secrets of the Savage Sun Palace. The matter of Wang Daoyin could only be put aside for now. Wang Daoyuan had another reason for returning to the mountain, and that was to learn the water dragon art and the advanced version of the mist escape. He cupped his hands towards Taigong and asked tentatively, "Taigong, are the water dragon spell and cloud escape art the simplified version? When I was cultivating them, I felt that they had great potential, but I didn't use it." Wang Jiza had lived for a long time and was shrewd enough to see through his thoughts. He stroked his beard and smiled. "No need to test me. These two techniques do have higher-level content. After all, the ancestor was a golden core cultivator. How could the techniques he created be of the first or second level? It said that the water dragon art was improved from the foundation of the ordinary water dragon art. Actually, that's just a rumor. The foundation of our Wang clan's water dragon art is the 10,000 dragon seatfall, which is a supplementary technique of the art of seatfall. The 10,000 dragon seatfall is extremely powerful. In the past, the ancestor was only a golden core cultivator and used it to kill a golden core cultivator of the Savage Sun Palace. But the drawback is also obvious. After using it, it consumes 80 to 90% of one's spiritual energy. In order to make up for this drawback, the ancestor used the 10,000 dragon seatfall as the foundation and combined many other techniques to create this technique. In order to deceive others, it's called the water dragon art. Although the water dragon art isn't as powerful as the 10,000 dragon seatfall, it's more flexible and uses less spiritual energy. The water dragon art you cultivate is simplified. You can only control the water dragon to fight with the enemy. When the ancestor created the water dragon art, he imitated the innate techniques of the dragonfish. Therefore, the complete water dragon art, the water dragon can use other techniques. As for this cloud mist evasion, naturally, it's a simplified version. The complete cloud mist evasion requires a Zifu disciple to train in. Even if I gave it to you now, it wouldn't be of any use. He paused for a moment, then continued, "The complete water dragon art can't be learned by anyone who isn't a family elder. You're qualified now. It's just that the complete water dragon spell requires the use of a water dragon to cast a spell, which has an extremely high requirement for one's divine sense. It's very difficult for those below the peak of qi refinement to even get started." Wang Daoyuan did not answer. He released the power of his spiritual sense and hit one of the pine needles. The pine needle was directly cut off by the power of divine sense. Generally, qi refinement cultivators could only use their spiritual sense to move light objects if they did not use spiritual sense secret techniques. It would be difficult for them to even pierce through a piece of ordinary paper. Not to mention cutting the extremely tough pine needles. Wang Jiza said in surprise, "I know that your divine sense strength surpasses those in the same rank, but I didn't expect that it's already strong to this extent. Your spiritual sense cultivation is considered top-notch among peak qi refinement cultivators. You're almost catching up to Xueqi. You should be able to learn the complete water dragon art. The complete water dragon art manual is on the 3rd floor of the Tripitaka block. You can go up with the elder token." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and bowed to Taigong before entering the Tripitaka block. He had never been to the 3rd floor of the Tripitaka block before. He went up the stairs to the 2nd floor, and at the end of the stairs was a door. He took out the elder token. The token flashed, and the door opened automatically. The 3rd floor was extremely spacious. There was only a bookshelf with a few jade slips on it, including the art of overturning sea, the water dragon art, and the cloud mist escape. Each jade slip was placed in a grid, and the grid was protected by a layer of light. The bookshelf seemed to be made of high-grade spirit wood. With his cultivation, he could not damage the bookshelf at all even if he attacked with all his strength. He used the token to open the light barrier of the grid where the water dragon art was. He took out the jade slip and used his divine sense to examine it. Only then did he realize that there was a layer of restriction on the jade slip that blocked divine sense. He used the heaven-peering art but was unable to break through the restriction. He could only take the jade slip downstairs. When he was downstairs, he handed the jade slip to Taigong. Taigong took the jade slip and closed the restriction on it. He handed the jade slip to Wang Daoyuan and said, "Cultivating the water dragon art requires 5,000 contribution points. I guess you also care about this little bit of contribution points. This is the core inheritance of the clan. Remember not to spread it out." He nodded and said, "Great-grandson understands. I will not spread it out." He took the jade slip and used his divine sense to study it. After memorizing the contents, he returned the jade slip to Taigong and bade farewell. Clear Glass City had not reached the stage where they were selling Tier 2 spirit items. There was no point in going there now. Therefore, he returned to his residence and cultivated the complete version of the water dragon art. The complete version of the water dragon art had a much more complicated content to condense the water dragon. The condensed water dragon was also much stronger. Just by looking at the condensed water dragon, there was no difference between the complete version and the simplified version. It seemed like the 12th uncle Wang Shui was using the complete version of the water dragon art. No wonder his water dragon art could easily crush opponents of the same level. His own water dragon could only transform into a water dragon armor and release dragon prowess. The complete version of the water dragon art enhanced the simplified version's dragon prowess and water dragon armor. In addition, there were 3 water attribute spells: Water Dragon Prison, Myriad Dragons Emerging from the Sea, and Water Driving Art. The Water Dragon Prison was a sealed prison formed by using water attribute spirit chi. When the enemy was inside, they would be restricted from using spells. It was mainly used to trap and suppress the enemy. The Myriad Dragons Emerging from the Sea was an improved version of the Myriad Dragons Seatfall art. It reduced the explosive power and increased the duration. The large water dragon condensed by the water dragon art was divided into many smaller water dragons to surround and attack the enemy. Its power was much higher than the large water dragon. The water driving art was to control water. When one was in the river, lake, or sea, one could borrow the power of the water to attack the enemy. When using water attribute spells, the power would be greater. The water driving art was similar to dragon prowess. As long as the water dragon was condensed, it would have this ability. The power of the water driving art depended on the condensed water dragon. The stronger the water dragon, the stronger the water driving art. This was originally the dragonfish's water driving art. When Wang Qingzu used it in the water dragon art, its power was much weaker than when the dragonfish used it. The so-called divine art was a special type of spell. It did not require one to control the flow of spirit chi. With a thought, it could be released in an instant. Its power was also much stronger than ordinary spells. Human cultivators needed to be at least in the Yuanying realm to comprehend a divine art. Very few cultivators could comprehend the embryonic form of a divine art in the Golden Core realm. It was called a lesser divine art. However, not everyone could comprehend a divine art. It depended on fate. When the time came, one could suddenly comprehend it while eating or sleeping. If there was no fate, one could not comprehend it even after 100 years of hard work. Divine beasts had innate divine arts. For example, the dragon race was born with the ability to control water. Some demon beasts with divine beast bloodlines had a high probability of awakening a divine art. Furthermore, it was possible for them to awaken it at a lower realm. The dragonfish had awakened the water driving art in the Purple Mansion realm. The water driving art in the water dragon art was only an imitation of the dragonfish's divine art. It could not be used as one wished and its power was much weaker. It could only be considered a powerful passive spell and could not be compared to a divine art. Chapter 126. He had already laid a good foundation for the simplified version of the water dragon art. It was not difficult to condense the water dragon, and he succeeded after a few tries. The water dragon armor was also not difficult. There was no need to practice the water manipulation, but the water dragon prison and 10,000 dragons emerge from the sea were very difficult. After more than 10 days of hard practice, the water dragon prison could only create a fist-sized water bubble, which would burst with a poke, let alone trap the enemy. Using 10,000 dragons emerge from the sea could only split one water dragon into 2, and its close combat ability was worse than not using 10,000 dragons emerge from the sea. These two spells relied on the strength of the spiritual power and were powerful with high cultivation. He was only a qi refining cultivator, and it was not easy for him to use them. It was purely wishful thinking to use them against the enemy. Wang Daoyuan was not discouraged. After practicing the complete version of the water dragon art, his strength had improved a little. The water dragon's close combat ability and dragon's power had increased a lot. In addition, the water dragon armor's defensive power had increased greatly. After using the water dragon armor, he could use the water manipulation technique and other water attribute spells to increase the power. The most important thing was that in the future, when his cultivation improved, the combat power of the water dragon art would also increase greatly. It took more than 10 days to practice the water dragon art. There were less than 20 days before the auction of the Foundation Establishment Pill. At this time, there should be someone selling second-tier spiritual objects in the clear glass market. Before going to the clear glass market, he first went to fourth uncle Wang Shouyuan's cave residence and asked him to help see if the plants that only had leaves and did not bloom were ink jade lotus. If they were, he would raise them well. If not, he would dig them up. After raising them for so long, he could only use them to make beggar's chicken. It was too wasteful. When he came to fourth uncle Wang Shouyuan's cave residence, he saluted and said, "Fourth uncle, I have a question about spiritual plants to ask you." Wang Shouyuan smiled and said, "You are always jumping up and down. Why are you suddenly interested in spiritual plants?" Wang Daoyuan did not care about fourth uncle's ridicule. He took out a lotus leaf and said, "Fourth uncle, I got a lotus in the Green Willow Island. It looks like a black water lotus, but it won't bloom. Can you tell me what's wrong?" Wang Shouyuan received the lotus leaf and carefully observed it for a while before probing it with his divine sense. Finally, he tore off a small piece of the lotus leaf and put it into his mouth to taste it. After pondering for a long time, Zhang Xian slowly said, "This is definitely not the black water lotus. Even though it looks similar, there are slight differences in its smell and taste. It looks a little like the inky jade serene lotus. I don't know much about medicinal properties, so I can't be sure. Let's go to your seventh uncle's place and let him determine the medicinal properties. He is an alchemist, so he has a better understanding of the medicinal properties of spirit herbs. His judgment should be more accurate than mine." The two of them arrived at Wang Shouhong's cave and took out the lotus leaf. Wang Shouhong directly tore off a small piece of the lotus leaf, put it in his mouth, chewed a few times, and swallowed it. Then, he closed his eyes and meditated, refining this small piece of lotus leaf. 15 minutes later, he stopped refining and said with certainty, "This is definitely not the black water lotus. There is a very weak power in the lotus leaf that can affect the soul. It is very likely to be the black jade lotus." Wang Daoyuan asked doubtfully, "But why isn't it blooming? That lotus is more than 20 years old, but it still only has lotus leaves." Fourth uncle Wang Shouyuan said with a smile, "If the black jade lotus doesn't bloom, then it is not strange. The black jade lotus likes pure yin qi. In places without pure yin qi, it can also grow well, but it just doesn't bloom. That lotus that doesn't bloom, does it grow in places without pure yin qi?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "Indeed, I know that the black jade lotus needs to be planted in places with pure yin qi. But I thought that without pure yin qi, it can't grow at all. That lotus is growing well, so I thought it wasn't the black jade lotus. It's my bad." After solving the doubts in his heart and confirming that these 5 lotus flowers were indeed the black jade lotus, he continued to keep them. He learned from Qi Yun's memory that the secret realm where the 10,000 corpse spiritual master passed away had extremely rich yin qi. After Foundation establishment, he could explore it and collect some yin qi. At that time, the black jade lotus could reproduce normally. With the value of the black jade lotus, occupying some spirit fields was nothing. After bidding farewell to fourth uncle and seventh uncle, he went to the executive hall again and reported to Grand Elder that he was going to Clear Glass City to purchase Tier 2 spirit items at a low price. Grand Elder did not have any objections. After all, Clear Glass City did not allow fighting, and there was no danger there. He did not take the spirit ship, but directly used the cloud mist escape to travel underwater. Casting the water dragon armor in the water driving technique automatically activated, and the cloud mist escape speed increased by nearly 20%. Coupled with the dragon power of the water dragon armor, the demonic beasts in the water automatically avoided. It only took half a day to reach Clear Glass City. After more than 10 days passed, Clear Glass City became even more lively. Some Tier 2 spirit items began to appear on the stalls, such as Tier 2 refining materials, green jade bamboo's bamboo pole, purple young copper ore, and so on. These things were not of much use to him, so there was no need to waste spirit stones and subsidize competitors. He mainly paid attention to the stalls selling spirit herbs. After walking for a short distance, he saw a street stall selling spirit herbs. He stopped in front of the stall and used his divine senses to scan the entire stall. When he didn't find any valuable spirit herbs, he was about to continue walking. The stall owner quickly called out to him, "Wang Clan's Dao Yu, I have some good stuff here. I wonder if Dao Yu is interested?" Wang Daoyuan asked, "I don't know what good stuff it is." "Dao Yu, take it out and let me see." The stall owner took out a 1-foot-long withered grass from his storage bag. This withered grass did not have branches and only had a single stem. The leaves were fan-shaped, and after drying, they were tightly attached to the stem like dragon scales. This was the dragon tendon grass. He was collecting spirit herbs for the Foundation Establishment elixir, and was only lacking this dragon tendon grass. It was a pity that this dragon tendon grass had already withered and could not be planted. He used his divine senses to scan the dragon tendon grass and found 3 mile-sized seeds in the gaps of the leaves. All 3 seeds were still alive. The seeds were caught in the gaps of the leaves and could not be seen with the naked eye. Since there were seeds, he naturally had to buy them. He took the dragon tendon grass and asked, "Dao Yu, name a price." The stall owner was also a straightforward person and said, "Fixed price, 500 spirit stones." This price was quite reasonable, so he didn't bargain. He directly took out 500 low-grade spirit stones and handed it to the stall owner. Then, he put the dragon tendon grass into the space of the spirit pearl. At this moment, a voice sounded, "Wait, I want this dragon tendon grass." "Wang Clan's boy, hand it over." Wang Daoyuan turned around and almost laughed out loud. He thought it was someone important, but it turned out to be the prodigal son of the Liang clan, Liang Zilong. He was followed by a few lackeys. Ever since he came to the Elixir Seal Pavilion to cause trouble 5 years ago, he was so scared that he almost peed his pants. He thought that he had turned over a new leaf and cultivated properly. He didn't expect that he still hadn't made any progress. This lack of improvement was not only referring to the way he interacted with others, but also to his cultivation. 5 years ago, he was at the 2nd level of Qi refinement, and now he was still at the same level. How could he still be stuck at the 2nd level of Qi refinement? Below the peak of Qi refinement, every 3rd level was a small bottleneck. He had never heard of anyone being stuck at the 2nd level of Qi refinement. In a place like Qingli Market with rich spirit Qi, even with Wang Daoyuan's aptitude, if he didn't eat pills, he could break through to the 3rd level of Qi refinement in 2 or 3 years. Chapter 127. This brat was deliberately looking for trouble, so Wang Daoyuan naturally didn't have anything nice to say to him. He sneered. "Isn't this the genius young master of the Liang clan? Aren't you seeking the Dao on Clear Sky Peak? Why are you here with a group of people with low aptitudes like us?" Young Master Liang's reputation as a prodigal son was like thunder in the Clear Glass Market. Wang Daoyuan also shouted these words loudly. There were many loose cultivators and cultivators buying spiritual items in the surroundings, and they all knew of Liang Zilong's conduct. Instantly, the entire street was filled with a joyous atmosphere. Liang Zilong still hadn't trained his face to be thick-skinned. He was directly enraged by his words. He pointed at him and scolded, "Wang Daoan, you dog that doesn't know what's good for you. My Liang clan hasn't settled the score with you for stealing my Uncle Eleven's things. If you hand over the dragon tendon grass now, I can still help you say a few good words. Who knows, I might even spare your dog life." Wang Daoyuan was angered by this fellow. If the Liang clan wanted to settle the score with him, they should have kept it a secret beforehand. What was this fellow trying to do? Could it be that he thinks I'm timid and wants to scare me to get some benefits? Or is he purely trying to take revenge for being tricked by me 5 years ago and humiliating me in public? He was thinking. Liang Zilong thought he was really scared and became even more excited. He shouted, "Think carefully. Is a dragon tendon grass worth more than your little life?" He couldn't remain silent any longer. Otherwise, this grandson might say something unpleasant. He asked, Where did I steal your Uncle Eleven's things? Liang Zilong said without hesitation. In Xueqi village. You forced my Uncle 11 to hand over his storage bag and magic items, or else you would kill him. Some of the people around who were watching the show couldn't hold back their laughter. Xueqi village was close to Clear Stream and was beside the Golden Water Route. It was also at the edge of the Mortal area, so it was quite famous. Thus, many loose cultivators knew that Xueqi village was the Wang clan's territory. The Wang and Liang clans didn't get along. Running into the enemy clan's territory and letting you go after only asking you to leave your things behind, this was already very benevolent. The affiliated clans of the Netherworld sect could prohibit other cultivators from entering their territory. Everyone knew this rule. The members of the Liang clan had entered the territory of the Wang clan. If they were killed, they could only blame it on their bad luck. Even if they reported it to the Netherworld sect, it would be pointless. He knew that he was in the wrong, yet he still dared to come out and make a ruckus. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan knew that the Uncle 11 that Liang Zilong spoke of should be the Liang clan cultivator that he had dealt with when he returned home. He continued to fish for information and asked, "May I know why your Liang family has come to my Wang family's territory?" Liang Zilong thought that he had given in and became even more excited. He shouted, "My Uncle 11 found a pack of black cloud wolves there and wanted to kill them. You said that it's your family's spirit beast." He wanted to continue shouting, but an old cultivator wearing the Liang clan's green robe came forward and covered Liang Zilong's mouth. This person had his attendants drag Liang Zilong back. He cupped his hands towards Wang Daoyuan and said, "This is Dao Yu from the Wang family. Why do you have to bully the younger generation of my Liang family?" This person was an elder of the Liang clan. His name was Liang Zhechen, and his cultivation was at the peak of qi refinement. Although the Liang clan was a Zifu clan, the chores of the clan were still handled by qi refinement elders. Apart from the clan leader, all the foundation establishment cultivators were grand elders and did not care about worldly affairs. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Don't say that. In terms of age, the young master of the Liang clan is a few years older than me. We were evenly matched. You, on the other hand, were bullying the younger generation. Senior Liang, how do you explain the matter of your Liang clan cultivators coming to my Wang family's territory and attacking my family's spirit beast? I was magnanimous and let that Dao you off. You still want to settle the score? Since you don't want to settle this privately, let's find Elder Zhou to judge." Liang Zhechen thought for a while and said, "Whether that pack of black cloud wolves was a demon beast or a spirit beast of the Wang family is uncertain. You say that it was a spirit beast, but do you have proof? If it was a demon beast attacking Xueqi village and 11th brother helped save the mortals of the Wang family, even if he accidentally crossed the line, it would be pardonable. Fellow Daoist, you want to kill 11th brother indiscriminately. Aren't you being ungrateful?" Wang Daoyuan chuckled and took out an image recording pearl. He said, "Daoyu's ability to distort the truth is not weak. Unfortunately, I recorded the scene with an image recording pearl. As long as I hand this image recording pearl to Elder Zhou, he will be able to judge what is right and what is wrong." This image recording pearl was naturally not the one that recorded the entire process. Wang Daoyuan took out this blank image recording pearl to lure Liang Zhechen to snatch it. As long as he made a move, this matter would blow up and the Netherworld sect would not be able to ignore it. Since the Liang clan did not want to settle this peacefully, he would let the Liang clan suffer a little. Liang Zhechen's eyes spun and he thought for a long time, but he still did not make a move. Wang Daoyuan could only put away the image recording pearl, feeling that it was a pity. Liang Zhechen was a smart person. Since Wang Daoyuan did not directly kill Wang Daoyuan, he naturally did not want to blow up the matter. He only wanted to leave something to be used against him. If not for the idiot Liang Zilong spreading the news, this matter would have passed temporarily. Even if he left something to be used against him and it would be a hidden danger in the future, it would be better when the hidden danger erupted. Now that everyone knew about it, the Liang clan was not in the right. If they fought again, no matter how the Liang clan used their connections, they could not let the Wang family suffer a great loss. At most, they could settle the matter peacefully. However, they had to pay a price for using their connections. They could not just rely on their mouths to get help. If they did not use their connections, they would have to compensate. Wasn't this helping the Wang family by the foundation establishment pill? Rather than making a move now, it was better to suppress the matter as much as possible. At the very least, They had to delay it until after the Foundation Establishment pill was auctioned. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. He was in a dilemma because of this idiot nephew of his. However, he could not admit defeat. Since that's the case, let's wait and see. After saying that, he flicked his sleeves and left. Wang Daoyuan did not care. He had something to use against him. As long as that guy who was ranked 11th was not dead, he could use it at any time. Even if he died, it would only be a little less destructive, but it would still be somewhat useful. The Wang family had enough spirit stones to bid for the Foundation Establishment pill, so they did not need to cause any more trouble. The most important thing was to safely obtain a Foundation Establishment pill and let Wang Shi build his foundation. Liang Zilong, this idiot, caused such a ruckus. It was a slap to the Liang clan's face, but it did no harm to the Wang family. The initiative was still in the Wang family's hands. The loose cultivators who were watching the show discussed animatedly. A loose cultivator ridiculed, "This Liang Zilong is really at odds with the Wang family. 5 years ago, he came to the Wang family to cause trouble and was played. After that, he always wanted to take revenge. The Liang clan's patriarch was afraid that he would cause trouble, so he locked him up in Clear Sky Peak. He just got out, but he already caused so much trouble for his own family. He will probably be locked up for a few more decades." Another round of laughter broke out. A loose cultivator continued, "The Liang clan are all quite cunning. How could they have produced such an idiot? He simply confessed without being pressed. The Liang clan's patriarch is really good-tempered. Why would he keep such a plaything around if he wasn't beaten to death?" Wang Daoyuan did not have the time to listen to the loose cultivators ridicule the Liang clan. The situation had changed. Although the initiative was in his hands, he still had to inform the patriarch and the various elders. This was to prevent the Liang clan from causing any more trouble and leaving his own family helpless. He no longer strolled around and directly returned to the Jade Spring Provision Store. Chapter 128. When Wang Daoyuan saw ninth great-uncle, he told him the whole story and gave him the image recording pearl. Wang Zhida asked, "Daoyuan, how do you plan to solve this?" He said without hesitation, "There's no need to solve it. The Liang family is in the wrong, so we'll cover it up as much as possible. If we solve this now, we'll just kill that old guy from the Liang family at most, and the Liang family will compensate us with something. Our Wang family won't get many benefits, and the Liang family won't lose much either. It's better to put this matter aside for now, and when something happens to the Liang family, we'll expose this matter. It'll be a much better blow to the Liang family. Now, our Wang family's top priority is to build our 12th uncle's foundation. Everything else is trivial, so there's no need to add to the mess at this moment." Wang Zhida nodded thoughtfully, and said, "That's reasonable. Then let's leave it at that for now. I'll tell the patriarch about this." Wang Daoyuan returned to the backyard of the Pill Seal Pavilion, in his own cave. Not long after, someone knocked on the door. He opened the door and saw that it was second uncle Wang Shouju. Wang Shouju was the son of 10th great-uncle Wang Zhiha, and he perfectly inherited his characteristics. He wasn't good at cultivation or the 100 arts of cultivation, but he was steady, reliable, and never made any mistakes. He was born to be a steward. He bowed and said, "Second uncle, why are you here?" Wang Shouju smiled and said, "Father has other things to do, so I'll take over as the shopkeeper of the Pill Seal Pavilion. No matter what, you still have the title of a spirit talisman master in the Pill Seal Pavilion, so I have to come and see you as the new shopkeeper." I'll cut to the chase. I heard from ninth great-uncle that your talisman crafting skills have surpassed his, so I'm here to buy some from you. Since an elder came personally, he had to give him some. He took out 10 golden knife talismans, 5 earth armor talismans, and 5 divine travel talismans and gave them to second uncle, saying, "I used up a lot when I went into the mountains, so I can only take out 20 talismans. You don't have to give me spirit stones. Convert them into contribution points and give them to Dao Yin." Wang Shouju took the talismans and sighed and said, "I still know the 100 arts of cultivation to earn money. Why didn't I learn them when I was young? Forget it. Let's not talk about this. There are a lot of things waiting for me to take care of in the shop. I'll go ahead first." After second uncle left, Wang Daoyuan took out the eagle egg from the spirit pearl space. This eagle egg should be hatching soon, so he had to hurry up and recognize it as its master. He forced out a drop of blood essence and dripped it on the eggshell. He used the beast taming technique to recognize its master and established a master-servant relationship with the eagle egg. Not long after, the eagle egg began to shake, and cracks appeared on the surface of the eggshell. The baby eagle had started to peck at the eggshell, so she couldn't put it into the space of the spirit pearl. Eagles were usually wild and untamed. Even if they recognized a master, it was very likely that they would not submit to him. If he wanted it to be absolutely loyal, he had to let it see its master as soon as it came out of the egg. Wang Daoyuan quietly waited for the baby eagle to come out of its shell. More and more cracks appeared on the eggshell, and soon, a hole appeared, revealing the baby eagle's beak. It continued to expand the size of the hole. After an hour, the hole was big enough for it to crawl out of the eggshell. The baby eagle that had just come out of its shell only had sparse fluff on its body. It was still impossible to tell its breed. The first person it saw was Wang Daoyuan, and it seemed to be very close to him. Wang Daoyuan took out a small strip of rabbit meat from the space and put it in front of the baby eagle's beak. The baby eagle was not wary of him and quickly ate it. It seemed that he didn't have to worry about the baby eagle not being obedient when it grew up. He put the baby eagle back into the space, changed into the clothes of an ordinary rogue cultivator, put on a veil and bamboo hat, and left the Pill Seal Pavilion. Finally, there was someone selling Tier 2 spiritual items. He wanted to buy a few more, but he didn't expect that idiot Liang Zilong to cause trouble. Everyone on the street was staring at him. How could he buy spiritual items? After walking around for 2 hours, he did see a few Tier 2 spiritual items, but they were all refining materials or dead spiritual herbs. These things were useless to him, so he didn't even have the interest to ask. Just as he was about to return home, he saw a few stalks of dew congealing grass in a stall that no one cared about. Dew congealing grass was a low-grade Tier 2 spiritual herb, and it was one of the main ingredients for refining the essence condensing pill. The essence condensing pill was a common medicinal pill used by foundation establishment cultivators to improve their cultivation. It had the same effect as the spirit gathering pill for qi refining cultivators. Although these stalks of dew congealing grass were not well preserved and looked withered, they were still alive. The stall owner looked to be in his 40s, and his cultivation was at the peak of qi refining. He looked fierce and had a few scars on his face. No wonder other stalls were crowded with people. But his stall was deserted. The stall had all kinds of spiritual items. There were also many broken magic tools, and some even had bloodstains. This person was most likely a treasure-snatching cultivator. The spiritual items were all snatched, so it was not surprising that there were many kinds. Wang Daoyuan was too lazy to care about what he did. He came to buy things, not to make friends. As long as there was something he needed, it was fine. The Netherworld sect didn't care about this person, so he couldn't care. Maybe it was because the things were all snatched, so it didn't matter how much he sold. This stall owner was quite easy to talk to. 5 stalks of dew congealing grass only cost 400 spirit stones. He didn't care about the other things on this stall. After paying the spirit stones, he turned to leave. The stall owner said, "I think Dao Yu is also a straightforward person. I still have some good things here. I got them when I explored the cave of an ancient cultivator. They're definitely good things." Wang Daoyuan waved his hand and said, "I'm not interested in how you got these things. Take them out and let me see. If they're really good, I'll take them even if they're dug out of a cesspool. If they're trash, even if they're related to true immortals, I won't take them." The stall owner looked up to the sky and laughed. "Dao Yu is really straightforward. I like what you say. I won't be long-winded. How about you just take a look?" After saying that, he took out a dozen seeds from his storage bag. These seeds were the size of soybeans and were blood red in color. However, their vitality was extremely weak. If one didn't observe carefully with divine sense, they wouldn't be able to sense the vitality at all. Wang Daoyuan was ecstatic. These seeds were exactly the same as the blood jade ginseng seeds described in the ancient books. Although they were not far from death, the probability of germination was almost 0. However, in the space of the spiritual pearl it was hard to say. When he explored the secret realm, he obtained the peach tree sapling. The aura released by the flame at the top of the sapling was extremely beneficial to spiritual plants. Previously, the hidden cloud tea was half dead. After the green flame, the situation quickly improved and now it had begun to grow. It could be seen that the aura released by the green flame had the effect of reviving spiritual plants. If these seeds were planted near the peach tree sapling, they might be able to germinate normally. Although his heart was surging, he remained calm on the surface. He asked, "What spiritual plant seeds are these? They don't seem to be of low quality. Unfortunately, they only have a trace of vitality left. It's unlikely that they'll germinate even if I plant them." The stall owner didn't say it directly. Instead, he transmitted his voice. "These are blood jade ginseng seeds. Dao, you should know the value of blood jade ginseng, right?" Wang Daoyuan also transmitted his voice back. "Of course I know about blood jade ginseng. If it's a 500-year-old blood jade ginseng, it's impossible to get it without 20,000 spirit stones. However, these are seeds. Even if they're fresh, they can only be refined into foundation establishment pills after 500 years. What use would a rogue cultivator like me have for them? Also, these are seeds that basically don't have any hope of germinating. In my opinion, if you sell them to some confident Ling plant farmer, they'll be worth some spirit stones." The stall owner sighed and said, "How would I not know? I won't hide it from Dao Yu. I've shown this to many people and none of them were willing to buy it. If Dao Yu is willing to buy it, I can sell it to you at a low price." Chapter 129. Seeing that the stall owner was in a hurry to sell, Wang Daoyuan continued to trick him. "Dao Yu is an honest person. I can give you 1,000 spirit stones for these seeds. I won't hide it from you. I know a spirit plant farmer. Even though he isn't very strong, he is very confident. If I buy them from you and sell them to him, I can make a few hundred spirit stones. Forgive me for speaking bluntly, but I think Dao Yu is also doing business without cost. No matter how much he sells, he will make a profit. If you don't sell now, these seeds will be completely dead. At that time, they won't be worth anything." Hearing Wang Daoyuan say he wanted to buy, the stall owner's face was full of excitement. He said, "Then we'll do as Dao Yu says, deal." He couldn't help but be excited. Fresh blood jade ginseng seeds were only a few hundred spirit stones each. His seeds didn't have much hope of germinating, but he could still sell them for more than 10% of the price of fresh seeds. Wang Daoyuan took out 1,000 spirit stones and gave them to the stall owner. He put the seeds into the space of the Ling bead and turned to leave. He couldn't suppress the ecstasy in his heart and didn't have the mood to continue shopping. He immediately returned to the abode of the Dan Seal Pavilion. Entering the abode, he opened the soundproof formation he got from killing the assassin 5 years ago and laughed wantonly. There were 13 seeds in total. Even if only one seed could survive, he would have made a big profit. The blood jade ginseng would produce seeds once every 100 years. Each time, it could produce 5 or 6 seeds. Even though it needed 500 years to make the foundation building pill, the time flow in the Ling bead was 20 times faster, so it would still take 25 years. But as long as one seed germinated, he could harvest new seeds 5 years later. The second-generation blood jade ginseng could be made into pills in 30 years. 30 years later, he would only be a little over 50 years old. There would be enough time for foundation building. He didn't dare to have hope for a true essence fruit. Plus, even if he found a true essence fruit, it wouldn't be of much use. Normal true essence fruits didn't have seeds. While true essence fruit trees could live for 10,000 years. Only when they reached the end of their lifespan would they produce true essence fruits with long seeds. Counting from when the true essence fruit tree sprouted, it would start to bear fruit in 1,000 years. Each bearing cycle was 500 years. Even if he obtained a Xueqi fruit with a long core and planted it in the space of the spirit bead, it would take him 75 years to use it. Moreover, the concentration of spirit qi in the space of the spirit pearl was only at the level of a low-grade level 2 spirit vein. Although it was barely enough to plant a Xueqi fruit tree, it would take a long time for the fruit to mature. In fact, even if another 100 years passed, the true essence fruit might not be of any use. At that time, he would have reached the limit of his lifespan, and even if he had the foundation establishment pill, he wouldn't have much hope. He could only hope that he could go to Linhai Prefecture to buy demonic beast cores in the future. With the blood jade ginseng, there was no need to find the blood essence of demonic beasts to replace it. The cost and refining difficulty would be greatly reduced. 13 seeds were planted around the peach sapling. Whether or not they could survive would depend on their luck. The peach tree sapling had been transplanted into the space for nearly 2 months. According to the time in the space, it was more than 3 years. But after more than 3 years, the peach tree sapling did not grow at all. However, the fluctuations of spiritual energy were much stronger than before, and the flames in the bud were much stronger as well. There was already a small flame outside the bud. The spiritual plants that were further away from the peach tree sapling did not change much. Only the hidden cloud tea grew more than an inch taller. The leaves were green to the point of turning black, and they were all upright. It was more energetic than when it was in the hidden cloud continent. In the following 10 days or so, Wang Daoyuan went out to search for spiritual objects every day. But he did not encounter any more precious spiritual objects. The biggest gain was that he was about to gather all the spiritual herbs needed to refine the condensing origin pill. In addition, he also bought a red-scaled pine sapling. The red-scaled pine was a low-grade or mid-grade level 2 fire attribute spirit wood. The pine cone could increase the cultivation of fire attribute cultivators. To Wang Daoyuan, the most important use of the red-scaled pine was that it could be used to burn level 2 spirit charcoal. The spirit charcoal burned by the red-scaled pine was in the upper middle of the same level of spirit charcoal. Its stability was very good. Whether it was refining level 2 pills or level 2 magic tools, it was enough. The day of the auction for the Foundation Establishment pill quickly arrived. The Patriarch and the 12th uncle also came to Clear Glass City a few days ago. Wang Daoyuan followed the Patriarch and the 12th uncle to the auction house to bid for the Foundation Establishment pill. The auction location was in the middle of Clear Glass City's old square. Because the left square and the right square belonged to the Netherworld sect, rogue cultivators rarely went there. A place without customers was not worth much. Therefore, the important business of the Netherworld sect in Clear Glass City was in the old square. The 3 of them came to the front of the auction house. The Patriarch showed the invitation card, and a young woman led the 3 of them into the auction house. The auction house's hall was about 30 feet long and 18 feet wide. Rogue cultivators without invitations sat in the hall on the first floor, and those with invitations sat in the private rooms on the second floor. There were dozens of private rooms on the second floor. The private rooms directly facing the auction stage belonged to several Zifu family clans. The Wang family's private room was on the side. It was not good but not too bad. There were 5 Zifu family clans in Clear Glass City. Apart from the Yang family and the Liang family, the other 3 families were in the lower reaches of Clear Glass River, next to Wanchuan River. The main task of these 3 families was to guard against the Thousand Spirit sect, so they did not participate in the Battle of Gold Goose City. This time, only those who killed enemy Foundation Establishment cultivators in the Battle of Gold Goose City, or those whose own Foundation Establishment cultivators died, were eligible to bid for the Foundation Establishment pill. Therefore, only the Liang family and the Yang family participated in the auction. The other families did not have the financial resources to compete with the Zifu family. So these 2 families reserved 2 Foundation Establishment pills. After the 3 people of the Wang family entered the auction house, rogue cultivators and people from other families also entered one after another. After half an hour, the seats for rogue cultivators below were full. Elder Zhou went to the auction stage and announced the start of the auction, then retreated behind the scenes. Then, an old Foundation Establishment cultivator went to the auction stage. 10 young and beautiful female cultivators carried trays and walked to the side of the auction stage. Each of the trays had a jade box on it. After the auctioneer introduced the Foundation Establishment pill, the first jade box was placed on the auction stage. The auctioneer opened the jade box, and a blood-red pill the size of a longan was revealed. Wang Daoyuan was quite interested. This was the first time he had seen a Foundation Establishment pill. Then the bidding began. The head of the Liang family, Liang Jiaxing, directly bid 80,000 spirit stones. No one among the rogue cultivators dared to speak. The head of the Yang family, Yang Ziyuan, bid 90,000 spirit stones. Only these 2 families bid for the first Foundation Establishment pill. In the end, it was bought by the Liang family at a high price of 140,000 spirit stones. The Liang family had always wanted to suppress the Yang family, so they did not hesitate to pay a higher price. The second Foundation Establishment pill was competed for by the Yang family and several small families close to the Liang family. The Liang family had already won 1 pill, so there was no discount for the second pill. Therefore, the Liang family did not participate in the bidding. If the Yang family did not want the pill after bidding a high price, It would be a great loss to buy a foundation establishment pill with 100,000 spirit stones. The second pill was finally bought by the Yang family at a price of 130,000 spirit stones. There were many families bidding for the third foundation establishment pill. A rogue cultivator first bid 60,000 spirit stones, followed by Wang Jian's bid of 70,000 spirit stones. Then, several families who had a good relationship with the Liang family began to bid, and each time, they were sure to suppress the Wang family's price. Soon, the price reached 120,000 spirit stones. Wang Jian said calmly, 125,000. The head of the Huang family, Huang Wanzhong, bid 130,000. The Huang family had a foundation establishment cultivator in the Netherworld sect who became Liang Liang's disciple. The Huang family could be considered the Liang family's hardcore lackey. When Wang Jian stopped bidding, Huang Wanzhong became anxious and shouted, Wang Jian, why aren't you bidding? Chapter 130. This time, the Huang clan had killed a crippled early-stage foundation-building Yang Palace cultivator, so they could only buy the foundation-building pill with a 10% discount. 130,000 spirit stones, even with a 10% discount, was still 117,000 spirit stones, which was enough for the Huang clan to go bankrupt. Wang Jian picked up his teacup, took a sip, and answered lightly, I can't afford it. Immediately, the audience burst into laughter. Huang Wanzhong was so angry that he cursed loudly. At this time Elder Zhou shouted, Silence! The audience quieted down. The auctioneer bid 3 times, and the hammer fell. A young man's voice came from the Huang clan's box. Clan head, what's wrong? Wake up! Elder Zhou just shouted, so the people in the field didn't act too presumptuously. They only laughed for about 10 breaths of time before they stopped. The Huang clan didn't dare to not want this foundation-building pill. If they did, they would be waiting for the Netherworld sect to confiscate their property. They could only sell everything they had. Even if they sold the clan's spirit veins, they had to gather enough spirit stones. The bidding for the 4th foundation-building pill began. Wang Jian directly bid 100,000. Another foundation-building clan head, who was dependent on the Liang clan, bid 105,000. Wang Jian calmly said, 120,000. The audience fell into a strange silence. 120,000 spirit stones, even with a discount, was the limit that the majority of foundation-building clans could afford. Several clans dependent on the Liang clan also didn't dare to bid again. After all, the Huang clan had just been cheated, and no one wanted to be the next. The auctioneer bid 3 times, and the foundation-building pill was sold. With a 50% discount, the Huang clan only needed to pay 60,000 spirit stones. The 5th foundation-building pill was bought by an old clan for 130,000 spirit stones. For the 6th foundation-building pill, the Grey Cloud Peaks Meng clan began to bid, but after bidding 90,000 spirit stones, they didn't dare to bid again. The Meng clan could get a 30% discount when bidding for foundation-building pills, so they only dared to bid 90,000 spirit stones. In other words, the Meng clan only had 60,000 spirit stones. The Meng clan's box was next to the Wang clan's. Wang Jian transmitted his voice to the Meng clan's grand elder, Meng Qingshan. Dao Yu Meng, my Wang clan can lend you 20,000 spirit stones. Meng Qingshan excitedly replied, Thank you, Dao Yu Wang. I can't repay your kindness. But if you have any orders in the future, the Meng clan will do our best. Wang Jian said a few more polite words and stopped transmitting his voice. In the past year, the Wang clan had done several business deals with the Oasis and earned a lot of spirit stones. Wang Jian had brought over 80,000 spirit stones. The 7th foundation establishment pill was bought by the Meng clan for 120,000 spirit stones. Even with a 30% discount, it was still 84,000 spirit stones. The Meng clan could be considered to have gone bankrupt. They were only short of selling the spirit vein. After winning the foundation establishment pill, the great elder of the Meng family cried tears of joy. He said, The heavens didn't destroy my Meng family. After I die, I will have the face to see my ancestors. Wang Jian handed over 20,000 spirit stones to Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan took the spirit stones to the Meng family's private room next door and handed the spirit stones to Meng Chongqing. After exchanging a few pleasantries with Meng Chongqing, he returned to his private room. The Liang clan patriarch snorted coldly. The auction continued. The 8th Foundation Establishment Pill was sold for 125,000 spirit stones, and the 9th Foundation Establishment Pill was sold for 130,000 spirit stones. The last Foundation Establishment Pill was bought by a loose cultivator for 135,000 spirit stones. Afterward, 10 female cultivators carried jade boxes. Under the protection of a Foundation Establishment cultivator, they walked towards the cultivator who won the Foundation Establishment Pill. A female cultivator and a Foundation Establishment cultivator also came to the Wang family's private room. Wang Jian took the jade boxes and opened them. The Foundation Establishment Pill inside was emitting rich spirit qi. There was no problem with the pill. Wang Jian nodded and took out 60,000 spirit stones. The Foundation Establishment cultivator took the spirit stones and left the private room with the female cultivator. The 3 people from the Wang family stood up and prepared to leave the auction house. Although there were still some items to be auctioned later, they weren't worth much compared to the Foundation Establishment Pill. Since they got the Foundation Establishment Pill, it was better to let Wang Shui enter the Foundation Establishment realm first. At this time, a dispute broke out in the hall below. The rogue cultivator in the hall who won the last Foundation Establishment Pill didn't have any spirit stones to pay the bill after receiving the Foundation Establishment Pill. Instead, he directly wanted to leave. How could the Foundation Establishment cultivator who was escorting the Foundation Establishment Pill let him do as he wished? The 2 of them started fighting. This loose cultivator was very strong. In just a few moves, he knocked down the Foundation Establishment cultivator of the auction house. Elder Zhou immediately attacked, but there were still many cultivators in the auction house. He didn't dare to use any spells and could only use his flying sword to fight with the loose cultivator. This loose cultivator was very strong. Although he was only at the Foundation Establishment realm, Elder Zhou, a Zifu realm cultivator, couldn't take him down in a short time. Seeing this, the people in the hall all ran out. The people from the Wang family and the Meng family also ran to the Yang family's private room. They met up with the Yang family cultivators and left the auction house together. The people in the auction house were almost all gone. Elder Zhou could also act freely. He took out a black flag and waved it in his hand. Several black qi flew out from the black flag and rushed towards the loose cultivator. The loose cultivator's spirit qi surged and condensed into a fire phoenix, which rushed towards the black qi. The fire phoenix and the black qi collided. The black qi let out a mournful cry and then disappeared. The fire phoenix also let out a few mournful cries and turned into countless fireballs, flying in all directions. Elder Zhou wanted to continue attacking, but the loose cultivator seemed to have turned into a meteor and flew out of the auction house. With Wang Daoyuan's eyesight, he could only see a streak of fire streaking across his eyes. Elder Zhou angrily said, "Phoenix flight, flying star escape, the Heong Shi family's secret technique. Shizhenbong, it was you who didn't know the difference between life and death." He wanted to continue chasing, but many places in the auction house were set ablaze by the fire phoenix's fireballs. These flames weren't ordinary flames. The auction house's fire avoidance formation couldn't withstand the might of these flames. He had no choice but to put out the fire first. Otherwise, the entire auction house would be burned down. Half an hour later, all the flames in the auction house were extinguished. The entire auction house suffered heavy losses. Elder Zhou roared, "Shizhenbong, if I don't kill you, I'm not human." Wang Daoyuan felt a bit strange. Green Willow Province shouldn't be unable to afford a Foundation Establishment Pill. Was there a need for the Grand Commander to risk his life to steal a Foundation Establishment Pill? He even offended the Netherworld sect. The Wang, Yang, and Meng families came to a shop of the Yang family and prepared to build their foundation here. Clear Glass Market didn't allow fighting, so there was still some protection here. Once they took the Foundation Establishment Pill out, there was a 100% chance that someone would intercept and kill them. The shop's defensive formation had already been activated. The Yang family's ancestor, Yang Yong, was also in the shop. Seeing everyone come in, he smiled. "Little friend of the Wang and Meng families, build your foundation here. This old man will guard you." Wang Jian and Meng Qingshan expressed their gratitude to Yang Yong. In order not to interfere with each other, the 2 quasi-foundation establishment cultivators could only do it one by one. The Wang family lent the Meng family 20,000 spirit stones. The Meng family was embarrassed to compete with the Wang family, so they let Wang Shi build his foundation first. Wang Jian didn't refuse and gave the foundation establishment pill to Wang Shui. Wang Shui had been at the peak of qi refinement for more than 10 years. He had already made the necessary preparations. He directly swallowed the foundation establishment pill and began to break through in a cave in the backyard of the Yang family's shop. Everyone left the cave and guarded nearby. 2 hours later, the surrounding spirit qi began to surge into the cave, triggering a spirit qi wind. The wind grew stronger and stronger. Finally, it formed a spirit qi vortex with a diameter of more than 10 feet above the cave, rolling up the dust in the sky. Half an hour later, the spirit qi vortex gradually shrank and finally disappeared. Everyone's face showed joy. They had succeeded in building their foundation. Chapter 131. After another quarter of an hour, the door opened and Wang Shui walked out. Although he still had a sloppy appearance, his eyes were bright and his whole person's spirit was completely different from before. He bowed to the Yang family ancestor to express his gratitude. Then, a middle-aged cultivator from the Meng family who came with Meng Qingshan walked into the cave. This middle-aged cultivator was called Meng Chongfeng, the son of the Meng family's late patriarch. 2 hours later, a spirit qi vortex appeared above the cave again, but it was much smaller than the one caused by Wang Shui's breakthrough. The spirit qi vortex gradually shrank and finally disappeared, which was a sign of a successful foundation establishment. The worry on Meng Qingshan's face finally faded and was replaced by a face full of joy. With a new foundation establishment cultivator, as long as there were no accidents, the Meng family could be stable for nearly 200 years. Although the Yang family also won a foundation establishment pill, the ownership of the foundation establishment pill had not been determined, so no one reached foundation establishment. The Wang and Meng families bid farewell to the Yang family ancestor and then returned home. Wang Jian and Wang Shui decided to return to Jade Spring Peak to celebrate. Wang Daoyuan did not return, but stayed in Clear Glass Market. Next, he planned to return to Green Willow Province. Although there were many dangers and could be schemed against at any time, the probability of obtaining valuable spirit items was higher and it was easier to earn spirit stones. However, after Shi Zhenbang made such a scene at the auction house, whether the Netherworld sect would do something to Green Willow Province or not was still uncertain. If he went to Green Willow Province now, he might be involved in the battle between the two sides, which was really not a wise move. He planned to stay in Clear Glass Market for a while, and wait for the storm of snatching the foundation establishment pill to pass before going to Green Willow Province. For the next period of time, he practiced alchemy in the cave in the backyard of the Pill Seal Pavilion. After practicing for more than a month in Green Willow Province, he could already refine most of the first-tier middle-grade pills, and it was time to try refining the Essence Gathering Pill. Although the Essence Gathering Pill was the simplest of the first-tier high-grade pills, it was still much more difficult to refine than the first-tier middle-grade pills. Refining the Essence Gathering Pill required 10 kinds of spirit herbs, more than all the first-tier middle-grade pills. There were many kinds of spirit herbs, so it was easier to fuse them together. However, with Wang Daoyuan's divine sense cultivation, it wasn't too difficult for him to control the fusion of 10 spiritual herbs. In addition to the experience accumulated by the split soul, after failing 6 times, it was able to successfully concoct 2 spirit gathering pills on its 7th try. Only in the process of increasing the success rate of the spirit gathering pill did he realize the difficulty of refining a first-tier high-grade pill. After spending a month, he barely managed to raise the success rate to 3.5%. At this moment, his level had already surpassed that of his clone, Liang Zixing. The experience provided by his clone had already been fully digested. In the future, he could only rely on himself to improve his alchemy skills. 1 month had passed in the outside world, while 1 year and 8 months had passed in the space of the spirit pearl. The flames in the top buds of the peach tree played a huge role. Of the 13 seeds planted, 7 had successfully germinated. Although 6 of the seeds were completely destroyed, the result was still far better than he had expected. 25 years later, there would be 7 blood jade ginseng, which would be enough to refine 7 furnaces of foundation establishment pills. Based on the 30% success rate, that would be 21 foundation establishment pills. Even if he ate them one by one, it would be enough for him to build his foundation. Of course, he would also need 7 demon cores. That was the most important part. In this month, the situation in the Green Willow state could be said to have changed drastically. The boss of the Green Willow State, Shi Zhenbong, had stolen a Foundation establishment pill under the eyes of the underworld sect's Purple Mansion elder, set the auction house on fire, and escaped unscathed. As one of the three overlords of Zhao, how could the underworld sect endure this? Although the three sects were in a tense situation, there was no war at the moment. It was very easy for the underworld sect to mobilize a few people. After Elder Zhou reported the situation, the underworld sect sent 3 Purple Mansion realm cultivators and 30 Foundation establishment realm cultivators to attack the Green Willow State. Because the Green Willow State was within the Sky Beheading Mountain range, there were many demon beasts. Qi Refinement realm cultivators would basically be killed if they went in. Therefore, they didn't send any Qi Refinement realm cultivators. Even so, this kind of strength was enough to massacre the Green Willow State. However, the battle didn't progress smoothly. The defensive formation of the Green Willow State was quite good, and there were many Foundation establishment realm cultivators guarding it. The underworld sect besieged the formation for 3 days, but they still couldn't break it. The energy source of the Green Willow State's defensive formation came from the spirit vein. If they didn't have enough strength, they couldn't directly break the formation. The 3 Purple Mansion realm cultivators weren't strong enough to break the formation, so they asked for help from the sect. The underworld sect sent a 3rd-tier formation master to help. However, the Purple Mansion realm cultivators had been attacking the formation for 3 days, creating too much of a commotion and angering the demon beasts in the Sky Beheading Mountain range. Just as they were waiting for the formation master to arrive, they were attacked by several 3rd-tier demon beasts and over 100 2nd-tier demon beasts. The underworld sect suffered heavy losses. They lost more than half of their Foundation establishment realm cultivators, and the rest were all injured. Although the 3 Purple Mansion realm elders didn't die, they were all heavily injured. This result caused the underworld sect to lose face. As one of the 3 major powers of Zhao, they couldn't take down a force without Purple Mansion realm cultivators and suffered heavy losses. It wasn't worth it to continue fighting. The Green Willow State wasn't a real threat to the underworld sect's rule. It was just a little disgusting. But if they wanted to completely take over the Green Willow State, they had to be prepared to pay a huge price. To the 3 major sects, golden core cultivators were a strategic deterrent and couldn't be easily mobilized. Purple Mansion realm cultivators were a high-end force. When fighting between sects, Purple Mansion realm cultivators were the main force and Foundation establishment realm cultivators were the backbone. Most of the Purple Mansion realm cultivators of the underworld sect were stationed at the border with the other 2 sects, while the rest were stationed at important properties. They didn't dare to mobilize a large number of Purple Mansion realm cultivators to attack the Green Willow State. Currently, it seemed that a small number of Purple Mansion realm cultivators wouldn't be of much use and might even die there. Golden core cultivators didn't dare to rashly go either. Not to mention the pressure from the 2 sects, if golden core cultivators entered the Sky Beheading Mountain range, it would be fine if they didn't use force. Once they used force and angered a 4th-tier demon beast, it wouldn't be a small matter. It might cause a beast tide. At that time, the underworld sect would be attacked from 3 sides by the 2 sects and the beast tide. They would definitely die. Last time, they had been tricked by the 2 sects and had suffered heavy losses. They couldn't afford any more casualties. Furthermore, even if they took over the Green Willow State, they wouldn't have much to gain. They would still have to send people to defend against the demon beasts and expend their own strength. If they couldn't fight, they could only use conciliation. Both sides discussed and decided that the Green Willow State would lower their stance and let the underworld sect have some face. Everyone was pursuing a higher cultivation. It wasn't good to fight and kill. In the end, both sides reached an agreement. The Green Willow State apologized to the underworld sect and compensated them with a total of 100,000 spirit stones. As for the underworld sect, they said that the Green Willow State knew their mistakes and could change. They would let this matter go. This was just what was on the surface. Outsiders didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. Chapter 132. After that, the underworld sect destroyed 2 families in Clear Glass County on the grounds that they had colluded with the Myriad Spirit sect. However, Wang Daoyuan had stayed in Green Willow Province for half a year and knew of these 2 families. They had shops in Green Willow Province and business was very good. These 2 families had become the chickens that the underworld sect had killed to warn the monkeys. Wang Daoyuan thought that he was lucky. Fortunately, His business with the underworld sect had always been done in secret. Although the conflict between Green Willow Province and the underworld sect had been resolved peacefully, it was hard to say if there would be any more changes. He was not in a hurry to go to Green Willow Province. Refining pills, making talismans, and cultivating in Clear Glass City was also good. It was just that he could not obtain valuable spirit items. 3 months later, the underworld sect and Cruel Sun Palace had some small conflicts. The two sects had a series of small conflicts over a high-value spirit mine at the border. Both sects were nervous. This way, Wang Daoyuan could go to Green Willow Province without worry. With the border tense, what the underworld sect hoped for the most was stability in the rear. They definitely would not fall out with Green Willow Province at this time. He packed up his belongings and put them into the space of the spirit pearl. He also left a storage bag on his body. There were a few high-grade Grade 1 talismans, a dozen pills, dozens of spirit stones, and a sharp golden sword. If he encountered a strong enemy outside, he could hand over the storage bag to confuse them. In these 3 months, he had not been idle. Although his alchemy and talisman skills had not improved much, he had accumulated a lot of goods. There were more than 1,000 pills of various types and more than 200 low-grade Grade 2 talismans. After making sufficient preparations, Wang Daoyuan used the water dragon armor and cloud mist escape to go upstream. 6 hours later, he was dozens of miles away from Mirror Iron Mountain. He had nothing to do at Mirror Iron Mountain, so he did not stay and went directly to Green Willow Province. At this time, there was a large clump of watergrass in front of him. It was normal for there to be watergrass in the river, so he did not care too much. When he passed by the water plants, a long sword pierced out from them. Wang Daoyuan activated the cloud mist escape, with all his might, dodging upwards. This sword was extremely fast. Even though the cloud mist escape was known for its speed, he still couldn't completely dodge it. However, the sword that was originally aimed at his heart had pierced his arm instead. His silk armor was like a vest, and there was no protection on his arms. Fortunately, the water dragon armor had blocked most of the force, and the sword had only scratched his skin. However, bleeding in the water was not a simple matter. The smell of blood would attract demonic beasts. He immediately distanced himself more than 30 meters away from the clump of aquatic plants. His doppelganger was telepathically connected to him and had already prepared the medicine in a short while. He took out some medicine from his space, applied it to his wound, and wrapped a cloth around his arm. In order to prevent the sword from being poisoned, he even ate 2 antidote pills. The series of measures were completed within a period of 5 breaths. Logically speaking, this period of time was enough for the enemy to launch another attack, but the person hiding in the aquatic plants did not attack again. After Wang Daoyuan treated his injuries, he asked, "Since you've already made your move, what's the point of hiding? Do you think I'll spare your dog life if you don't make another move?" An emotionless voice came from the aquatic plants. "You reacted very quickly. At this distance, I can't hurt you. So what's the point of attacking? You didn't attack until you saw an opening. Are you an assassin?" He probed. "Blood Shadow?" That year, when he caught the Qing River carp, the assassin who came to kill him was like this. His strength was clearly far above him, but he still waited for an opportunity to kill him in one strike. In the assassin's storage bag, there was a token with the words Blood Shadow written on it. Now that he mentioned Blood Shadow, he could trick this assassin. The voice in the aquatic plants was no longer emotionless, but rather filled with disbelief. "Since you know about Blood Shadow, then I can't let you live." The assassin drilled out of the aquatic plants and pounced directly at Wang Daoyuan. However, this assassin's escape technique was very strange. He would appear and disappear at times. If it were not for the fact that they were underwater and any movement would cause ripples in the water, he would probably have been ambushed. Wang Daoyuan was wearing the water dragon armor and activated the water control technique automatically. He was very sensitive to all disturbances in the water. Every time the assassin came close, he could sense it in advance and use the mist escape to dodge the attack. While he was dodging, he was also observing the secret of the assassin's escape technique. The two of them were fighting underwater, so the water was not particularly dark. However, the sunlight was refracted by the ripples on the water, so the distribution of light and darkness in the water was not uniform. Some places were very bright, while other places were shadowed. This assassin's figure appeared in the bright places and disappeared in the dark places. He guessed that this assassin's escape technique could only be activated by using shadows. He had never seen such an escape technique before, so he did not know how to break it. After a while, he slapped his head and thought to himself, with a hammer in hand, everything looks like a nail. I always want to use a hammer to solve all problems. Usually, when I fight with opponents who are stronger than me, I can only rely on my wits. Now that a battle of wits is useless, I don't know how to fight anymore. Assassins are good at ambushes, but not good at fighting head-on. The situation now is that I'm strong and the enemy is weak. After cultivating the water dragon technique, the water is my home ground. At this time, what's the point of playing a battle of wits? First, I'll be reckless. If I can't kill the opponent, I'll be reckless again. He stuck 3 low-grade level 2 earth armor talismans on his body. The water dragon armor was good at defending against spells, but not sharp weapons. This assassin could barely pierce through the water dragon armor with his sword, so it was impossible for him to break through 3 layers of the earth armor technique quickly. Then, he turned the water dragon armor into a water dragon nearly 6 meters long. Using the water dragon technique in the water was like a flood dragon entering the sea. The water dragon danced, rolling up waves of undercurrents. The assassin could not control his direction in the water, and could only go with the flow. Although Wang Daoyuan could not see where the assassin was, he could roughly sense his position. When he found that the assassin could not control his body, he directly summoned the soul-extinguishing bell. When the bell rang, the water nearby seemed to boil. Dense ripples, with Wang Daoyuan as the center, spread out in all directions. The lethality of a sound wave attack in the water was far greater than on the ground. A moment later, the assassin's figure appeared, already unconscious. Wang Daoyuan stuck a soul-subduing talisman on the assassin's forehead and stored it in the space of his spiritual pearl. When the assassin heard him mention Blood Shadow, he was especially excited. He was very likely one of Blood Shadow's people. He had never heard of a faction called Blood Shadow in the state of Zhao. It seemed that Blood Shadow was not a faction on the surface. He was targeted by an assassin organization, so he had to have some understanding of this organization. Otherwise, he would not even know how he died. As for how to understand Blood Shadow, there was a ready-made channel in front of him. He brought the assassin back to the spiritual spring cave and used the doppelganger soul-nurturing technique on the assassin. He also took the opportunity to recuperate for a few days. After 12th Uncle Wang Shui succeeded in building his foundation, he would, as usual, invite a few families with whom he was on good terms to celebrate. Just the preparation alone took a lot of time, and he also had to send people to other families with whom he was on good terms. For the time being, 12th Uncle should not be able to free himself, and the spiritual spring cave specific location could not be casually revealed to others. Now that the spiritual spring cave was most likely empty, he could refine a doppelganger here. Chapter 133. Wang Daoyuan followed the water to the entrance of the spirit spring cavern and opened the door. As expected, there was no one inside. He first cut out a split soul and nurtured it for a few days. Then, he used the soul-splitting blade to destroy the assassin's intelligence and consciousness. The split soul then entered the assassin's consciousness. After the split soul took complete control of the clone, he began to pry into the clone's memories. This assassin was originally an ordinary rogue cultivator. By chance, he joined Blood Shadow and was codenamed Shadow Fox. His shadow escape was superb. He was cautious and good at hiding. He always killed with one blow. From his memories, he understood that Blood Shadow was an underground force that spread far and wide. It was not limited to the state of Zhao. Their main business was to kill people for money. Shadow Fox belonged to Blood Shadow's Qingli County branch. He was only a peripheral member and did not know where the branch was. Every time he accepted a job, he would contact them through a token. After completing a job, someone would send him a reward. Therefore, Shadow Fox did not know who wanted to kill Wang Daoyuan. Shadow Fox did not know who the employer was, but he knew that the Liang family was the most suspicious. He had just slapped the Liang family in the face. With the Liang family's petty character, it was normal for them to take revenge. Blood Shadow only recognized the token and not the person. Once a peripheral member was killed, as long as someone recognized the token as the owner, they could replace the original assassin. Wang Daoyuan did not need the token to recognize him as the owner. After all, The assassin was refined into a clone, but he was still alive. Blood Shadow's rule was that after an assassin accepted a job, no one else could accept the job until the person who accepted the job died. The longest an assassin could delay a job was 20 years. Of course, there were also urgent jobs. The mission to assassinate Wang Daoyuan was not urgent. If he kept this assassin, Blood Shadow would not send anyone else over for 20 years. This could guarantee his own safety. This assassin didn't practice any high-level spells. The only thing he could use was this Shadow Meld. Shadow Escape was useful for sneak attacks. It was not as reliable as Cloud Escape in a direct confrontation. Shadow Fox only had a few thousand spirit stones, some pills, and a pitch-black sword in his storage bag. The sword was called the Serene Water Sword. It was a water element first-level upper-grade magic tool. It could avoid detection by divine sense. This was very similar to the dagger used by the assassin when he caught the Qing River carp. However, he didn't like to use a dagger. He could only use it for sneak attacks. He would be at a disadvantage if he faced the enemy head-on. On the other hand, this Serene Water Sword was not bad. It could be used for sneak attacks and could also be used to fight head-on. After learning from Ing Hu that there would be no more assassinations for the time being, he was relieved. He left the cave abode and used a disguise technique to change his appearance. He used the cloud mist escape all the way and quickly arrived at the 100 Rivers Lake. When he arrived at a ferry, the scene in front of him stunned him. He had entered and exited the 100 Rivers Lake a few times, and there were at most a few dozen people waiting at the dock. At this time, there were at least 400 to 500 people waiting for the spirit ship at the docks. This was 10 times the usual number. He walked forward and asked a middle-aged cultivator waiting for a boat, "Dao Yu, what's going on today? Why are there so many more people taking boats than usual?" The middle-aged cultivator asked curiously, "Dao Yu is from Green Willow Province? You don't know, but this time, Green Willow Province's senior Shur stole the Netherworld Sect's Foundation establishment pill and was able to escape unscathed. The Netherworld Sect sent people to fight, but they returned without success. We all came here because of the reputation. Outside, people don't like us and we are suppressed by various clans. We have no place to fish for resources, so we might as well come to Green Willow Province. Although life here isn't easy, if you are lucky, it is possible to become rich overnight. Dao Yu is a local. Can you tell me about Green Willow Province's situation?" Wang Daoyuan didn't care. He was waiting for a boat and had nothing to do. He could chat with others and learn more about Green Willow Province's situation. When the other rogue cultivators heard someone talking about Green Willow Province, they also gathered around to listen. He now understood why Shi Zhenbong had stolen the Foundation establishment pill. He wanted to make a name for himself, expand his influence, attract rogue cultivators, and further expand his strength. Then he thought about how the Green Willow Province's upper echelons took the initiative to do business with the Wang clan, buying large amounts of pills and talismans. The timing was good. Thousand Spirit Sect and Cruel Sun Palace worked together to trap the Netherworld Sect. The Netherworld Sect had suffered heavy losses and needed to rest. If Green Willow Province did something now, the Netherworld Sect would not overreact for the sake of stability. Not to mention, now that the Netherworld Sect and Cruel Sun Palace had a conflict at the border, they had no time to deal with Green Willow Province. Not long after, 5 spirit boats arrived and docked at the pier. It seemed that the Green Willow Province's upper echelons were prepared. They even knew to add ferries. It was like the Spring Festival in his previous life. A single spirit ship could still fit more than 100 people. 5 spirit ships could transport 400 to 500 people without a problem. After boarding, the 5 boats left the pier and sailed towards Green Willow Province. The beasts in the lake were still rampant. Rank 1 high-grade beasts attacked the spirit boats from time to time. The foreign rogue cultivators mostly lived in Qingli Province. In Qingli River, the beasts had been taken care of. Few dared to attack the spirit boats. Most of the rogue cultivators had never seen such a scene. Every time a beast attacked, the new rogue cultivators would cry out. When they felt the spirit ship shake, some of them would even cry and shout. Every time this happened, it would attract the mockery of the old foxes of Green Willow Province. Wang Daoyuan had gone back and forth on the lake many times. This situation was common. A 5 zhang long rank 1 high-grade python raised its head and bit towards the middle of the spirit boat. Wang Daoyuan was sitting there. The new rogue cultivators around were so scared that they squeezed to the side. He slowly took out the sharp metal sword from his storage bag. When the python's head came close, he waved the sword and chopped at the python's head. The sharp metal sword's specialty was its sharpness. Adding on Wang Daoyuan's strong Ling power, the sword chopped off the python's head. He took out a spirit beast bag and put the python's head and body inside. This python was really heavy. Normal storage bags could not hold it. The rogue cultivators who were running away in fear looked at him with reverence. A rogue cultivator who looked to be 40 years old laughed. "This Daoyu is so young. I thought you were a newcomer to Green Willow Province. I thought this python would fall into my hands. Daoyu still needs me to save his life. I did not expect you to be an old hand. Your skills are much stronger than mine. Sorry for the disrespect." Wang Daoyuan laughed. "Not at all. I have not been in Green Willow Province for long. Since I started cultivating, the beasts I killed the most were pythons. There is no other reason. I am familiar with them." He was not joking. Since he left the mountain, the beasts he killed the most were pythons, followed by crocodiles. Snakes are called small dragons, and crocodiles are also called Tuwa, Tuwa, second-tone, dragons. If he opened the Purple Mansion in the future, he might be able to get the title of Dragon Slayer Sanrin. Although there were many demonic beasts along the way, Wang Daoyuan didn't have any new gains because there were too many people trying to snatch them. Not long after, the spirit ship docked at a small ferry in the northeast of Green Willow Province. Everyone disembarked. In a few months, the scenery of Green Willow Province did not change much. Only the people changed. In the past, the number of people near the large willow tree did not exceed 1,000. But now, there were more than 5,000 people near the large willow tree. It was almost the total number of cultivators in the 100 River Lake. The total number of cultivators in the 100 River Lake area was not far from 20,000. It had to be said that Shi Zhenbong provoked the underworld sect. It was an extremely successful advertisement. It attracted many rogue cultivators. Wang Daoyuan did not care about what was going on in Green Willow Province. He came to Green Willow Province to buy all kinds of spirit herbs. Even if Green Willow Province wanted to wrestle with the underworld sect, they could not do it now. This was only the beginning of their preparations. They had to pick out those who were worth nurturing from these rogue cultivators who had come because of their fame. They also had to nurture them into a force loyal to the upper echelons of Green Willow Province. Who knew how many years it would take? If the underworld sect was not crippled, they would not dare to start a war with them. Green Willow Province did not rely on their own ability to make the underworld sect submit. They relied on the geographical advantage of the 100 River Lake. They used the demon beasts in the Heaven/Mountain range to scare off the underworld sect. If they went out to fight, with Green Willow Province's meager strength, 1 or 2 Violet Palace realm clans and dozens of Foundation Establishment realm clans would be able to easily defeat them. The underworld sect did not dare attack and Green Willow Province did not dare attack. Therefore, for a long time in the future, Green Willow Province would not have any major conflicts with the underworld sect. Wang Daoyuan would not be in any danger if he continued to stay. Chapter 134. In the blink of an eye, 18 years had passed. Wang Daoyuan was already 39 years old, and his cultivation had reached the peak of qi refinement. His 5 elements primordial chaos technique had also reached the phenomenal success stage, and he could already try to build his foundation. However, without the foundation establishment pill, the success rate was still not high. Although failing to build his foundation after mastering the primordial chaos technique might not necessarily endanger his life, it was inevitable that his meridians and dantian would be injured. It would be a waste of time to recover from his injuries. He was already a second-stage mid-grade alchemist. With a few more years of hard work, he would be able to become a second-stage high-grade alchemist. It would be safer to buy demonic beast cores at a high price and try again after refining the foundation establishment pill. With the improvement of his cultivation, his combat strength had also undergone earth-shattering changes. The ultimate move of the soul-chasing whip technique was finally able to use all 5 elements at once after he mastered the technique. The water dragon condensed by the water dragon technique was close to 100 feet, and the golden rock phantom condensed by the golden rock fighting heaven technique had a wingspan of more than 50 feet. The eagle egg that he bought back then had hatched an adult eagle. The adult eagle was covered in dark feathers, and only the sword feathers on its wings were golden. This eagle was a second-stage mid-grade demonic beast, the golden-winged goshawk. Its wingspan was less than 10 feet, which was especially small compared to other demonic beasts of the same level that had a wingspan of 50 to 60 feet. The golden-winged goshawk was known for its speed and agility. In terms of speed, the second-stage golden-winged goshawk was not much inferior to the second-stage high-grade demonic beasts. Its agility was one of the best among the second-stage demonic beasts. Its innate spell was called Wing Slash, and it used a pair of golden wings to cut its opponent while flying at high speed. Wang Daoyuan also named it Golden Wings after the species name of the golden-winged goshawk. Through observing the battle between Golden Wings and Yun Yi, Wang Daoyuan's Golden Rock Phantom's melee ability had improved by quite a bit. The cloud mist condensed by the cloud mist escape was close to 300 feet in diameter, and its speed was about 70% of a first-stage Foundation Establishment cultivator's sword kinesis flight speed, and it was even faster underwater. Over the years, he had entered the mountains to search for spiritual objects. Although the true essence fruit tree was rarely seen in thousands of years, it was still very likely that it existed in some mystic realms. However, his luck was not very good, and he had not found any mystic realms for more than 10 years. However, it was not without gains. These few years, he had collected quite a number of Tier 2 spirit medicines. He had collected all the spirit herbs required for these 3 types of medicinal pills, including the second-level low-grade spring rejuvenation pill, the second-level middle-grade soul-strengthening pill. The soul-strengthening pill was used to improve one's divine sense cultivation and strengthen one's soul. After all, Foundation Establishment cultivators had to prepare for the opening of the Violet Palace. The most important thing for the opening of the Violet Palace was that one's divine sense had to be strong enough. One needed to have pills that could increase the cultivation of one's divine sense. In recent years, he was already able to defeat the Dark Cloud Mountain Wolf King head-on, and often went to find trouble with it. He used a low-grade Tier 2 Divine Travel Talisman to get rid of the Wolf Pack and then fought the Wolf King alone. When the Wolf Pack surrounded him, he used the Soul Extinguishing Bell to attack him. His mixed origin Soul Chasing Whip was already more powerful than the Wolf King's innate spell. Back then, he had been chased to the point where there was no road to the heavens and no door to the earth. He had no choice but to jump off a cliff to survive. How could he not take revenge? The Wolf King had been injured several times, but it was determined to escape. It drilled into the territory of other second-ranked demonic beasts, so Wang Daoyuan could not take it down. In the end, the Wolf King could not stand the humiliation and left the Dark Cloud Mountain with the Wolf Pack. All these years, he would return to Qingxi village every year to give his parents some spirit grains and ginseng. He also prepared some spirit feeding pills and some nourishing pills for Big Black to help it improve its cultivation and strengthen the Wolf Pack as soon as possible. In the future, if the clan wanted to open up mines, forests, and other industries in the Sky/Mountain Range, they would have to guard against demonic beasts. If Big Black could grow into a second-ranked demonic beast, it could occupy a piece of territory as a demonic beast. If the clan opened up industries in its territory, they would not have to worry about other demonic beasts coming to harass them. However, this was still a very distant matter. After all, Big Black had only just reached the mid-grade Tier 1. Wang Daoyuan also asked the clansmen of the Mirror Iron Mountain to send food to Wang Daoyin every year. Every time, it would be a few hundred kilograms of spirit grains, spirit fruits, and jerky. He rarely returned to the Jade Spring Mountain. Every time he returned, he would have to hand in some new varieties of spirit herbs. After all, his mission was to search for spirit herbs and expand the clan's industry. It would be hard to report if he did not take something. The clan leader and the other elders all wanted to bring him back to the Jade Spring Mountain to manage the clan's affairs. However, half a year ago, he still had to go back once because the first elder had passed away. The first elder had lived for 119 years. He was only 1 year away from the lifespan of a Qi refinement cultivator. It could be considered a rare death. 9th great-uncle took over as the first elder, and 12th uncle took over the heavy responsibility of managing the clear glass market. The clan leader wanted him to go back and manage the Spirit Spring Cave, but he was naturally unwilling. There was nothing for him to worry about in the clan. It was time to inherit the 5-element spiritual master's inheritance. According to the treasure map drawn by Zhao Baogua's master, the 5-element spiritual master's cave was not far from the border between the Sky/Mountain Range and the Huiyan Mountain Range. After reaching the border between the two mountains, He only needed to travel a few hundred kilometers due south. The cave was only 2,000 kilometers away from the main mountain range of the Sky/Mountain Range. Zhao Baoguo's master had taken the route north along the Clear Glass River, passing through the vicinity of the Jade Spring Mountain and entering the Huiyan Mountain Range. He went east along the southern foot of the Huiyan Mountain Range and reached the border between the two mountains before turning southeast. Although this route was a long detour, it was the safest. The range of the Sky/Mountain Range was determined by the range of the branch spirit veins of the main mountain range. Due to the influence of the main mountain range, these branch spirit veins had a lot of room for growth. The concentration of spirit qi in their area of influence was also higher. At the border between the two mountains, because the Huiyan Mountain Range extended to the east, it limited the expansion of the branch spirit veins of the Sky/Mountain Range to the west. As a result, the border of the Sky/Mountain Range was only 3,000 kilometers away from the main mountain range. On the other side of the clear stream, this distance was more than 7,000 kilometers. Walking back to the Huiyan Mountain Range, one only needed to go from the outer border of the Sky/Mountain Range to less than 1,000 kilometers inside to reach the five-element spiritual master's cave. The deeper the distance, the lower the probability of encountering a rank 2 demonic beast. Although Wang Daoyuan had the soul-chasing bees to scout the way, he could avoid rank 2 demonic beasts when he entered the outer area of the Sky/Mountain Range. However, it was also very troublesome to take a detour. It was good to take less dangerous paths. However, there was no need to completely follow the original path. Zhao Baoguo's master was an itinerant cultivator. In order to avoid misunderstandings, itinerant cultivators would try their best to walk at the edge of the cultivation family's territory and avoid places where mortals lived. Wang Daoyuan was not so troublesome. Who could control him if he walked on his own territory? He could directly set off from the Mirror Iron Mountain, cross the family's territory, and enter the Huiyan Mountain Range. After that, he would follow the route of Zhao Baoguo's master and walk a few thousand kilometers less. In recent years, in order to prepare to go to the five-element spiritual master's cave, he had worked hard to improve his talisman crafting skills. Now, he was already a middle-grade rank 2 talisman master. He already had a 50% success rate in crafting middle-grade rank 2 talismans. This level of talisman crafting was already the limit of a qi refinement cultivator. All these years, he had only sold rank 1 talismans in the Green Willow region. Most of the rank 2 talismans were sold to the family's shops, and a small portion was kept for his own use. He had more than 300 middle-grade rank 2 talismans and more than 100 inferior-grade rank 2 talismans. Coupled with a few powerful Dharma spells, he could completely fight against ordinary inferior-grade rank 2 demonic beasts. The Wolf King of the Black Cloud Mountain was defeated by him. If he encountered a middle-grade rank 2 demonic beast, as long as it could not fly, the success rate of escaping was still extremely high. Now that everything was ready, it was time to inherit the five-element spiritual master's inheritance. He had been waiting for this inheritance for nearly 20 years. Chapter 135. After inheriting the five-element spiritual master's legacy, he had to make preparations for refining the Foundation Establishment pill. After reaching Foundation Establishment, it would not be appropriate for him to hide in Green Willow Province. He might not return to Green Willow Province after this trip. In these years, Green Willow Province had been recruiting and expanding its strength. The signs of trouble were becoming more and more obvious. The border friction between the Netherworld sect and Cruel Sun Palace had not stopped for many years. It was hard to say what would happen in the future. It would be good to leave this troublesome place. He took away all the valuable items in the store. After walking out of the store, he opened the defensive formation. This time, he did not take a spirit ship to leave Green Willow Province. Instead, he found a secluded place and went directly into the water. Using the water dragon armor and cloud mist escape in the water, he could reach 80% of a Foundation Establishment cultivator's flying speed. Even a second-rank inferior-grade demon beast could not catch up to him in the water. Coupled with the dragon aura of the water dragon armor, aquatic demon beasts could not avoid him in time. He did not fight demon beasts along the way and arrived at Mirror Iron Mountain. He did not enter Mirror Iron Mountain or the Spirit Spring Cavern abode. Instead, he followed the underground river and headed north. When he reached the end of the underground river, he escaped to the surface. He was already east of Jade Spring Peak. A few hundred kilometers north was the southern foot of Mount Huyen. The Wang clan had several properties in the southern foot of Jade Spring Peak. Among them, there was a forest in the northeast corner of the Wang clan's territory called Iron Quinoa Peak. Iron Quinoa Peak produced first-rank superior-grade spirit wood. Iron Quinoa wood. Iron quinoa wood was extremely hard and was an important raw material for making spirit ships. Its value was relatively high. Iron Quinoa Peak had a first-rank superior-grade spirit vein and was guarded by clan cultivators all year round. The person currently guarding Iron Quinoa Peak was Wang Daoyuan's ninth aunt, Wang Shoujing. Although Wang Shoujing was a female cultivator, she was best at fighting. The most talented of the Shou generation was Wang Shui, followed by Wang Shoufeng. Wang Shoujiang and Wang Shoujing were equally matched and tied for third. Now, their cultivation had reached the peak of qi refinement and they had become clan elders. However, their positions were behind Wang Daoyuan. One was guarding Iron Quinoa Peak and the other guarding Mirror Iron Mountain. Both were important properties of the clan. Wang Daoyuan wasn't familiar with Aunt Jiu. Due to Wang Shoujing's powerful battle prowess, she had always been out guarding the family's properties and rarely returned to Jade Spring Peak. Since he had joined the family, he had only seen Aunt Jiu a few times. He only knew that Aunt Jiu cultivated a water attribute secret art and knew nothing else. This time, he was going to inherit the 5-element spiritual master's legacy. He didn't even tell the patriarch. The fewer people who knew, the better. 2 hours later, Tai Chiu Peak was already in sight. He did not plan to greet Jiugu, he just needed to go around Tai Chiu Peak. Just as he was about to bypass Iron Vermilion Peak and continue eastward, a cluster of water-blue spiritual power rose from Iron Vermilion Peak. The water-blue spiritual power rose to a height of 300 meters and exploded, letting out 3 dragon roars. This was the Wang family cultivator's distress signal. The more dragon roars there were, the more urgent the situation was. 3 dragon roars was already the highest level. This meant that Aunt Jiu's current situation was on the brink of death. Wang Daoyuan didn't want to take a detour. He had to hurry up and save people. He directly used a middle-grade second-rank divine travel talisman and rushed to Tai Chiu Peak at full speed. He was not far from Tai Chiu Peak, and with the use of the divine travel talisman, he arrived at the foot of the mountain in a dozen breaths. He used his divine sense to explore the mountain and saw 5 peak qi refinement cultivators blocking the entrance of a cave. The cave's defensive formation had been activated. He didn't see Aunt Jiu, she was probably inside the cave. However, these 5 cultivators were also injured. They should have been beaten by Aunt Jiu. Outside the cave, the leading cultivator said, "This woman is really difficult to deal with. She escaped into the cave. She just sent out a distress signal. This place is only a few hundred miles away from Jade Spring Peak. A foundation establishment cultivator can arrive in half an hour. We must solve it as soon as possible. Otherwise, when the foundation establishment cultivators arrive, we will all die." Wang Daoyuan activated the invisibility technique and breath-holding technique and slowly approached. When he was 20 meters away from the 5 people, Wang Daoyuan took out the 5-dragon soul-chasing whip and used the cloud mist escape to quickly escape behind one of them. The 5 elements whip struck at the man's head. The 5 people were shrouded in clouds and mist. They were stunned for a moment before they heard an ear-piercing whip sound. A sound that sounded like a watermelon being smashed followed closely behind. The other 4 people were on full alert. A gust of wind blew and the clouds and mist dispersed. They saw that the man who was sneak attacked by Wang Daoyuan was already lying on the ground with a broken long sword in his hand. His head couldn't be found. On the other hand, the surrounding ground was scattered with blood, minced meat, and bone fragments. Wang Daoyuan's whip had broken a first-rank high-grade magic tool and a head. The other 4 people cried, "Fourth brother, fourth brother." The leading cultivator asked, "What enmity do the 5 tigers of Shanyang have with you? Why did you kill my 4th brother?" Wang Daoyuan was dressed as a loose cultivator, so these people didn't recognize him as a member of the Wang clan. He smiled and asked back, "What enmity do you have with the Wang clan?" The leading cultivator said viciously, "We took their money and we had to help them. Dao, you shouldn't have meddled in this matter. A life for a life. Since you killed my 4th brother, I'm afraid you'll beg for death today." Wang Daoyuan smiled contemptuously. "I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. You're just a few pieces of rotten garlic, and I don't care about you. Now tell me who's behind this, and I'll let you choose how you want to die." The youngest of the four people shouted angrily, "What an arrogant brat! Today, I'll show you the power of the 5 tigers of Shanyang." With that, he threw out a few golden sword talismans and rushed over. Wang Daoyuan thought to himself, "This tactic seems familiar. When I killed Zhao Baogua, I seem to have used this move too. However, after I threw out the talismans, I'll use the soul-destroying bell next. Aren't you courting death by rushing over yourself?" He ignored the golden swords flying over and activated his wind-stepping boots with all his strength. After a few dodges, he easily dodged all the golden swords. When his opponent was close, he lashed out with his whip and hit the center of his opponent's eyebrows. His whip was much more powerful than a full-strength sword stab from an ordinary peak-stage Qi refinement cultivator. A hole was directly punched in the center of his opponent's eyebrows. His face was full of disbelief as he slowly fell down. The remaining 3 people cried, "Fifth brother." The leading cultivator looked at the long whip in his hand and said, "What's the relationship between Dao Yu and Zhao Baogua? Although your strength is far greater than his, the whip in your hand is his." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Why do you care so much when you're about to die? Just tell me who's behind this, and I'll give you a quick death." The 3 of them knew how powerful he was, so they no longer sent their heads to him one by one. Instead, the 3 of them attacked together. Wang Daoyuan put away the 5 dragon soul-chasing whip and condensed a water dragon. Then, he cast 10,000 dragons emerge from the sea and split into 3 small water dragons that were 30 feet long, entangling the 3 of them. The leader of the 3 said reluctantly, "This is the water dragon technique. You're from the Wang family." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Isn't that obvious? If I'm not from the Wang family, why would I get involved in this mess?" Chapter 136. Wang Shoujing also walked out of the cave at this time. Her face was pale, and she seemed to have suffered serious injuries. Previously, she planned to hide in the cave and rely on the defensive array to stall for time. When she heard the abnormal noise outside, she went to the door of the cave to observe the situation. She didn't dare to come out until Wang Daoyuan used the water dragon technique. She looked at Wang Daoyuan and asked, "Are you Daoyuan?" Wang Daoyuan replied with a smile, "Aunt Jiu, it's me. We haven't seen each other for so many years. You still recognize me?" The leader of the 5 tigers of Shanyang said angrily, "We're fighting. Can you be more serious? You're looking down on us too much." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Sorry, I almost forgot about you. I'm in a hurry. Do you want to tell me now, or wait until I kill 2 of you and leave 1 for questioning?" He took out his whip and was about to kill. The 3 of them were very nervous. At this time, a shout came from afar, "Who's attacking my Wang family's property?" This was the voice of the patriarch. Wang Daoyuan's scalp tingled. Did he come so quickly? He wanted to leave some spirit talismans for Aunt Jiu to protect herself after dealing with the 3 of them, and then quickly slip away. He didn't expect the patriarch to arrive so quickly. It was too late to run. He hoped that he wouldn't be directly captured back to Jade Spring Peak. After a while, the patriarch landed in front of the cave. Seeing that Wang Daoyuan was also here, he teased, "Oh, isn't this the 9th elder of the Wang family? Why are you here instead of fighting with the Black Cloud Wolf Pack in the oasis?" After the death of the 1st elder, Wang Daoyuan's position was advanced by 1. He became the 9th elder. Wang Daoyuan revealed an innocent smile. "5th granduncle, you already know. When I first came to the oasis, I went into the mountains to search for spiritual items and was chased by the Black Cloud Wolf Pack. In the past few years, my strength has surpassed the Wolf King. How can I not take revenge? The Wolf King was bullied by me several times and couldn't bear the humiliation, so he ran away with the Wolf Pack. There was no point in staying in the oasis, so I wanted to come back to Yanshan to play. As soon as I got here, I ran into the Shanyang 5 mice causing trouble, so I took care of them." Wang Xian had some understanding of his strength. Although he was surprised that he could bully the Wolf King to the point that he couldn't stay any longer, he didn't lose his composure. Wang Shoujing, Jiu, was not familiar with him. When she heard that he could actually beat the wolf pack away, her face was full of surprise. The remaining 3 of the 5 tigers of Shanyang were even more frightened. What kind of ruthless character had they encountered? Wang Jian pointed at the 3 guys who were tied up by the water dragon and asked, "These are the guys who attacked Mount Taisha this time. Are they the ones?" Wang Shoujing indignantly replied, "It was them. They pretended to be loose cultivators looking for work and waited for an opportunity to sneak attack me." Wang Jian asked the 3 of them, "Who ordered you?" The 3 of them remained silent. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Fifth granduncle, it's a waste of time to ask them. Let's just use the questioning heart talisman." Then, he controlled the water dragon to choke the 2nd and 3rd tigers unconscious, leaving only the eldest. He stuck a first-grade high-grade questioning heart talisman on the eldest and asked, "Who ordered you to attack the Wang family's property?" The eldest answered woodenly, "It's the Liang family. They gave us 300 spirit stones each and told us to attack Mount Taisha, kill everyone from the Wang family, and destroy everything that could be destroyed. After we were done, they would give us another 300 spirit stones each." Wang Daoyuan knocked the eldest unconscious and said with a smile, "That old man Liang doesn't have much time left. It seems like the Liang family is a little anxious." Wang Jian asked, "The Liang family didn't invade our family's property in the Qingxi area, but they stabbed us in places far away from Qingxi. What do you think, Daoyuan?" Wang Daoyuan thought for a long time and answered, "I can think of 2 possibilities. First, they were still planning to attack Mount Taisha, but the family had strengthened their forces there. If the Liang family wanted to make a move, they would cause too much of a commotion and it wouldn't be easy to clean up the mess. They would harass other places and lure the tiger away from the mountain before attacking Mount Taisha. Second, the Liang family changed their target. They gave up on Mount Taisha and changed their target. The hardest property to defend for our Wang family is Mount Taisha. The other properties are at most 1,000 li away from Jade Spring Peak. Foundation establishment cultivators can quickly reinforce them. It's even more difficult to take down the other properties. Thus, if the Liang family gave up on Mount Taisha, their next target might not be our Wang family's properties. It's already hard enough for the Liang family to gnaw on our Wang family, so it's impossible for them to find trouble with the Yang family. Then, the Liang family's only reliable choice is to expand westward and bully the Meng family in the west. Among the Wang, Yang and Meng families, the Meng family is the weakest. Back then, the Meng family sold everything they had and even borrowed 20,000 spirit stones from our Wang family to buy a single foundation establishment pill. Although they've improved over the past few years, they're still struggling to make ends meet. By attacking the Meng family, the Liang family can obtain the greatest benefits with the smallest price. By harassing our Wang family's properties, they'll also make us run for our lives and we won't dare to send reinforcements to the Meng family. Wang Shoujing asked, "Both of these situations are possible. No matter which one it is, it can cause huge losses to our Wang family. How should we defend?" Wang Daoyuan smiled. "Actually, it's very easy to determine which situation it is. We just need to look at the situation of the Yang and Meng families. If the 2 families are safe and sound, then the Liang family wants to lure the tiger away from the mountain and take down Mount Taisha. If that's the case, we'll have to invest more manpower in Mount Taisha. If the Liang family has designs on the Meng family and harasses our Wang family, it's impossible that they won't harass the Yang family. After all, the Yang family is the biggest obstacle to the Liang family's expansion. If the Yang family's properties are also harassed and the Liang family increases their suppression of the Meng family, then they'll eat up the Meng family. If they attack the Meng family, we just need to give more spirit talismans to the clansmen guarding the properties." Wang Jian nodded and said, "Daoyuan's words make sense. I'll go back and send people to inquire about the Yang and Meng families. You brat, you're made to be independent, but you'd rather run around than take care of the family's affairs. After Shui reached foundation establishment, you've restrained yourself a little, but you're still the same as before. This time, don't even think about running if I catch you. Come back to Jade Spring Peak with me to take care of family affairs." After saying that, he reached out to grab Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan used Cloud Mist Escape and fled 300 feet away. He begged for mercy. "Fifth granduncle, you can't turn your back on me. I've sent many good things to the family over the years. I've shed blood for the family. I've done meritorious deeds for the family business. You can't treat me like this." His words made both of them laugh. Wang Jian waved his hand and said, "Forget it, You can continue to run around. I can't be bothered with you. The Liang family is a little crazy, and it's a troubled time. Don't run around heaven/mountain range all day. If you have time, inspect the family business. Your Aunt Jo is injured. Why don't you guard Taichio Peak for a few days and let her return to Jade Spring Peak to recuperate? They wanted to use the family business to tie him down. Once he took over Taichio Peak, if the family didn't send people over, he wouldn't dare to leave and would be tied down here. How could he fall for this trick? He immediately replied, Aunt Jo's injuries aren't serious. I still have a lot of medicinal pills and spirit talismans. I can't use so much myself, so I'll give some to Aunt Jo. After saying that, he took out 5 offensive, defensive, and evasive level 2 mid-grade spirit talismans. He also took out dozens of healing pills and spirit energy recovery pills and stuffed them into Aunt Jo's hands, as if he was afraid that she wouldn't want them. After that, he used cloud mist escape and fled several hundred feet away before escaping through the earth. Before he left, he didn't forget to control the water dragon and strangle the remaining 3 tigers of the 5 tigers of Shanyang to death. This was to prevent the family head and Aunt Jo from being too kind and letting the tigers return to the mountain. Chapter 137. Wang Shoujing was at a loss. After being stuffed with so many talismans and elixirs, she was unable to react. This was a level 2 spirit talisman. In the past, he couldn't even exchange for it. Now he was given so many for free. She asked the clan leader, "Fifth uncle, these talismans?" Without waiting for her to finish, Wang Jian smiled and said, "You don't have to care about these things. Dao Yuan is filthy rich. The snacks he gives to Dao Yin every year are worth much more than this." Shui had nothing to do, so he swindled wine from him. He didn't care. It's not safe here. Just keep it for self-defense. Wang Shoujing was relieved. Looking at the corpse on the ground, she asked, "I haven't seen him for many years. I didn't expect him to be so capable. Is he always like this? Sometimes he's like a child, and sometimes he's ruthless?" Wang Jian knew that she was talking about the matter of killing people. He smiled and said, "Dao Yuan has always been very nice to his clansmen. He doesn't put on any airs when dealing with the mortals of his clan. Once he faced an enemy, his attacks were truly ruthless. However, for him to be able to live in an environment like Oasis for close to 20 years, it would be strange if he was not ruthless. When he needed to be ruthless, he was especially ruthless. When he needed to be kind, he was also very kind. He was not as soft-hearted as Shui. If he could build his foundation, he would be more suitable to be the clan leader than Shui. Unfortunately, he was as restless as Shui. He liked to run around even more than Shui. This child has suffered quite a bit, but he's not willing to return to Jade Spring Peak to enjoy his life. If Wang Daoyuan could hear this, he would definitely laugh himself to death. When he was in the Green Willow continent, he drank Tier 2 spirit tea every day, ate all kinds of spirit beast meat, and took pills with honey. Even the Violet Mansion elders of the Netherworld sect wouldn't be willing to waste spirit stones like this. How could this be called suffering? Wang Daoyuan used the Earth Escape art to leave Tai Chi Peak, and traveled over 30 miles in one breath before returning to the surface. Huiyan Mountain's spiritual energy was thin, and second-ranked demonic beasts were extremely rare, so it was not very dangerous. At the southern foot of Huiyan Mountain, the valuable mountain peaks had all been developed into mines or forests by the various clans. It was the most important source of raw materials for Qingli County. Many rogue cultivators made a living in this area. They either hunted rank 1 demonic beasts, picked rank 1 spirit herbs, or did some business without any capital like the 5 tigers of Shanyang. Most of them were still doing manual labor in their families' businesses. Wang Daoyuan was dressed as a rogue cultivator and was not very eye-catching. He walked all the way to the east. The traces of cultivator activity gradually decreased, and the spiritual qi also became denser. Soon, Wang Daoyuan arrived at the border between the two mountains. There were no longer any traces of rogue cultivators. He changed his direction here and turned south, entering the Heaven/Mountain range. This meant that rank 2 demonic beasts often appeared in this area. He released the soul-chasing wasp to lead the way while he used the rank 2 mid-grade divine strider talisman to follow behind. After more than 10 years, the soul-chasing wasp king finally made a breakthrough and became a rank 1 upper-grade spirit insect. The ordinary soul-chasing wasp also became a rank 1 mid-grade spirit insect. Perhaps due to the restrictions of the spiritual pearl, none of the demonic beasts or spiritual insects in the spiritual pearl were able to break through to the second stage. Yuan-E tiger, golden-winged goshawk, and fierce blood boar were rank 2 demonic beasts. Logically speaking, as long as one lived in a place with dense spiritual energy, one would be able to break through to the second stage just by eating and waiting for death. However, without exception, they were all stuck at the peak of rank 1 upper grade. They were only one step away from the second stage, but they were unable to break through. This shattered Wang Daoyuan's dream of nurturing high-grade spirit beasts to bully others. However, the rank of the soul-chasing wasp did not affect him much. He raised the soul-chasing wasp mainly as a support force, so it was not a big problem for them to have weak combat power. After these ordinary soul-chasing wasp advanced, their flying speed had improved greatly. He could not outrun them even if he used the rank 2 mid-grade Divine Strider Talisman. The rank 1 mid-grade soul-chasing wasp had a larger sensing range for spiritual objects, so its scouting effect was naturally better. He followed the soul-chasing wasp for hundreds of kilometers, but he did not encounter a single rank 2 demonic beast. According to the map left behind by Zhao Baoguo's master, the 5-element spiritual master's cave abode was about 150 kilometers south of him. At this moment, the soul-chasing wasp that was scouting ahead reported an abnormal situation. There were many demonic beasts blocking the way ahead. Moreover, it was a rank 2 low-grade demonic beast and a large group of rank 1 high-grade demonic beasts. It was very likely that it was a group of demonic beasts with a leader. Through the Wasp King, he understood the specific situation of the demonic beasts blocking the way ahead. The soul-chasing wasp that led the way reported that the demonic beasts ahead were dark cloud wolves. When Wang Daoyuan was in the Green Willow province, he often found trouble with the dark cloud wolves. Now, even the soul-chasing wasp recognized the dark cloud wolves. Knowing that the demonic beasts blocking the way ahead were dark cloud wolves, he could not help but laugh. It seems that I am really fated with dark cloud wolves. I fought with a large pack of dark cloud wolves for a few years and raised a small pack of wolves at home. Now, I have encountered another pack of wolves. If it was someone else, even if they were in the Foundation establishment realm, they would not dare to provoke a pack of dark cloud wolves. However, he was not afraid. In the Dark Cloud Mountain, he had accumulated a wealth of experience fighting dark cloud wolves. At this moment, he could use the soul-extinguishing bell with all his strength to severely injure a rank 1 dark cloud wolf within 300 meters. He was not afraid of being surrounded by a pack of wolves. Wang Daoyuan recalled the soul-chasing wasp and walked straight ahead. When he was 400 meters away from the Wolf King, he saw the Wolf King's appearance and the whip marks on its body caused by the 5 dragons' soul-chasing whip. He was immediately happy. Isn't this the pack of wolves from the Dark Cloud Mountain by the 100 Rivers Lake? It's really fate that we can still meet after migrating for thousands of miles. The Wolf King looked at him and laughed. It was at a loss. Although it did not recognize the human in front of it, the smell was very familiar. During Wang Daoyuan's time in the Green Willow province, he had always maintained a disguised state. There was still a big difference between his original appearance and his original appearance. While it was still thinking about who the person in front of it was, Wang Daoyuan took out the 5 dragon soul-chasing whip and used the smoke escape to directly rush toward the Wolf King. When the Wolf King saw the whip, it immediately remembered who the person in front of it was and revealed a panicked expression. It had already fled so far, but it still encountered this sworn enemy. He moved to a distance of 3 meters in front of the Wolf King and lashed out with a whip. The Wolf King hurriedly dodged, but its skin was still grazed by the tip of the whip and it let out a miserable cry. It ran forward without looking back. When it was more than 300 meters away from Wang Daoyuan, it raised its head and let out a mournful howl. Then, the pack of wolves followed it and fled in the east direction. The purpose of Wang Daoyuan's trip was the 5-element spiritual master's inheritance, so he did not have the leisure to chase after the Wolf King. If not for the fact that the pack of wolves was blocking the route recorded on the treasure map, he would not have made a move. After driving away the dark cloud wolves blocking the way, he released the soul-chasing bees to open up a path for 200 miles. More than 60 miles ahead, there was a short mountain that was 300 meters high. Although the mountain was not high, the area it occupied was not small. From a distance, the width of the foot of the mountain was about 20 to 30 miles. According to the information recorded on the treasure map, this was the place where the five-element spiritual master's cave was located. At this time, the concentration of spiritual energy in the place he was at was obviously lower than the places he had just passed. After moving forward for more than 10 miles, the concentration of spiritual energy was even lower. It was only equivalent to a mid-grade spiritual vein. When he was only about 30 miles away from the small mountain, he could no longer feel the presence of spiritual energy around him. There were still plants growing in the surroundings, but they were all ordinary plants and could not even be counted as spiritual plants. This was another place where spiritual energy was lacking. He did not know what the five-element spiritual master had left behind, but it could actually drain the spiritual energy in a radius of several dozen miles. Chapter 138. Wang Daoyuan didn't need to explore for a long time like the last time he came across a place with no spiritual energy. The treasure map left behind by Zhao Baogua's master recorded the way to enter the Five Elements Taoist's cave, as well as the location of the entrance. He came to the foot of the south side of the short mountain and found the entrance to the cave recorded on the treasure map. This door didn't look like a door at all. It was just a huge rock. The rock had white, blue, black, red and yellow colors. He put his hand on the rock, at the same time injecting the spiritual energy of the five elements into the rock. Then, extremely pure spiritual energy of the five elements came out of the rock. The pure spiritual energy circulated in his body for a cycle. Some of it was absorbed by his spiritual roots. The spiritual energy returned to the rock, and the rock moved to the right, revealing the door behind it. Wang Daoyuan entered the door, and the rock blocked it again. Inside the door was a huge stone room. On the back wall of the stone room, the original manual of the Five Elements Primordial Technique was inscribed. On the side wall, there was also a brief introduction of the Five Elements Taoist's life. Zhao Baogua's master should have obtained the technique and the Five Dragon Soul-Chasing Whip from here. At the bottom right corner of the back wall, there was a door more than 3 meters wide and 6 meters high. On the side of the door, there was a carving. Five Elements Primordial Technique can enter this door and inherit this old man's inheritance. He walked in front of the door, and put his hand in a dent on the door. A surge of spiritual energy of the five elements came from the door, and entered his body through his palm. This spiritual energy followed his meridians, and then went into his dantian. Finally, the spiritual energy merged with his body, and disappeared. With a rumble, the door shook. The dust that had accumulated for who knew how many years began to fall down. He used the stainless technique to sweep away all the dust. The door finally opened. Inside, there was a passage dozens of meters long, and at the end of the passage, there was a stone room. Wang Daoyuan walked in front of the door, and pushed it with his hand. The door didn't have any restrictions, and with a gentle push, it opened. Looking inside, there was a stone couch in front of the back wall of the stone room. A skeleton was sitting cross-legged on the couch. The clothes on its body had already decayed and turned to ashes. Below the couch was a praying mat. Apart from that, there was nothing else in the stone room. He had heard many stories about high-level cultivators who passed away in meditation, and left behind their legacies to attract cultivators of the younger generation to seize the opportunity to possess them. It was hard to say whether the Five Elements spiritual master was sincere in leaving behind his inheritance or if he wanted to possess him. The previous 2 doors had been tried by Zhao Baogua's master. There was no danger, but the situation inside the stone house was hard to say. After releasing a few soul-chasing bees, he didn't find any traps or restrictions. He summoned his doppelganger, Zhao Baogua, from the space within the spiritual pearl. Although more than 300 years had passed in the space of the spirit pearl, the lifespan of the living things in the space was still calculated according to the time in the outside world. After all, the space of the spirit pearl could only be considered a special secret realm in the great world. The length of one's lifespan was determined by the laws of the great world, and the mystic realm could not change that. Therefore, the clones in the space were still alive and well. However, as they were refined into clones, their souls were severely damaged, and their cultivation progress was slow. The slowest clone, Qi Yun, was originally at the early stage Qi refinement realm. Now it was only at the 6th stage Qi refinement realm. The fastest clone, Liang Zixing, was already at the peak of Qi refinement realm. The clone, Zhao Baogua, was now at the 9th stage of Qi refinement realm and was about to break through to the peak of Qi refinement realm. It just so happened that he also cultivated the 5 elements primordial technique, so he could be a pathfinder. Although his soul would also be finished if his doppelganger was possessed, at least it was better than him being finished. The clone, Zhao Baogua, walked into the stone house and searched carefully, but he didn't find anything like an inheritance. There was only a futon on the ground, facing the remains. Could it be that he wanted someone to kowtow? It was possible. The first door was to see if the successor had the penta-spiritual roots, and the second door was to see if the successor could cultivate the 5 elements primordial technique to greater success. Both of these Taoist gates tested one's aptitude, and this test was likely to test whether the successor had the heart to respect the master. If the 5 elements spiritual master really only left behind an inheritance and didn't have the intention to possess him, then what he wanted was nothing more than a reputation. He definitely hoped that his successor would respect his master and spread his name. He controlled the clone to go over, kneel on the futon, and kowtow 3 times. A crack appeared on the stone floor where the clone knocked his head. The stones near the crack began to move, and the crack became bigger and bigger. Finally, a half-foot square pit appeared. There was a protruding stone in the pit. The clone pressed the stone with his hand, and the stone wall on the right of the stone house began to vibrate. After a while, a door appeared on the stone wall. It was very similar to the door to the mystic realm he had encountered in the east of the 100-River Lake. There were obvious spatial fluctuations. Behind this door was very likely another mystic realm. Following the principle of releasing the soul-chasing bees if there was no solution, he released more than 20 soul-chasing bees and entered the door. Soon, the soul-chasing bees sent back news that there was no danger inside. He let the clone walk in front to block the sabers while he followed behind. After entering the cave, they walked through a section of the cave and finally arrived at a spacious place. This was a stone room. There were only 2 bookshelves in the stone room, one on the left and one on the right. They were placed on the walls of the stone room. There were books on the left bookshelf, but there weren't many of them. There were only 4 books. One of them was similar to the book that recorded the Golden Rock Wrestling Dragon technique. It was made of some kind of metal, and the contents were directly inscribed on it. The others were beast skin books similar to the 10,000 Spirits Atlas. The contents were probably also recorded with spiritual sense. There were many things on the right bookshelf, but they were all jade slips. There were nearly 100 of them. If they were all cultivation techniques, spells, and the like, he would have made a huge profit. How could the things collected by a golden core Taoist master be lacking? He didn't dare to look directly, as he had to guard against the possibility of being possessed. He ordered the clone to put all the jade slips and books into a storage pouch. He then put the storage pouch into the space of the spirit pearl. He had the 3 clones in the space of the spirit pearl check what was recorded in these jade slips and books. After some investigation, he found that the metal book recorded the main cultivation technique of the 5 elements Taoist master, the 5 spirits immortal art. With this book, this trip was worth it. The 3 beast skin books didn't record cultivation techniques or spells. The names of these 3 books were Biography of the 5 Elements Taoist, Experience, and Records of Beiyuan. Biography of the 5 Elements Taoist was the record of the 5 Elements Taoist's life experience. Experience was his cultivation experience, including the process of his creation, cultivation, and improvement of cultivation techniques. There was also the experience of practicing the various arts of cultivation, including the inheritance of formations, refining tools, and refining pills. Among the 3 major arts of formations, tools and pills, the inheritance of formations was the highest, reaching the 4th rank upper grade. The inheritance of refining tools was at the 3rd rank middle grade, and the inheritance of refining pills was only at the 2nd rank upper grade. Generally, golden core cultivators would minor in other arts in addition to their main arts. The 5 elements Taoist's main arts were formations, and his minor arts were refining tools and refining pills. Records of Beiyuan was the encyclopedia of Beiyuan Xueqi. It recorded the history of Beiyuan Xueqi, the geography, the major powers and their inheritances, as well as all kinds of spiritual items. These 4 books could be said to be the 5 elements Taoist's life's work. As for those jade slips, Wang Daoyuan almost died of heartache. The era that the 5 elements Taoist lived in was too long ago. And jade slips were the simplest recording tools. They couldn't withstand the test of time, and most of the contents of the jade slips had already disappeared. A few jade slips that were better preserved only had a few sporadic sentences or even a few words left. They couldn't be cultivated. Chapter 139. Although the 5 Elements spiritual master's inheritance was good, he couldn't cultivate in this unfamiliar place. It wouldn't be too late to cultivate after returning to the Jade Spring Mountain. The stone room wasn't sealed. There was a door in front that was ajar, allowing light to seep in. Wang Daoyuan let his doppelganger go forward and push the door open. In front of him was a large grassland. He walked out of the stone room and looked back. Behind him was a small mountain. Looking around, he saw smoke rising from the top of a mountain more than 40 miles away. There wasn't a single blade of grass growing near the mountain. The rocks on the mountain were obviously formed by melting lava. This was a volcano. On the left was a large, lush forest. The land was flat and the vegetation was lush. On the right were many large and small hills. The vegetation was sparse and the rocks were colorful. One of the hills was the red iron mine that he was most familiar with. Going around the hill behind him, there was a plain behind the hill. There were a few hills in the distance that had spring water gushing out. The spring water converged into a stream and flowed towards where he was. The stream flowed near the hill beside him, and then turning, flowed into the forest. The land under his feet was yellow soil. Most of the land had sparse vegetation. There were also tall trees beside the stream. The front, back, left, right, and middle areas corresponded to the 5 elements. Wang Daoyuan walked around the earth elemental region. Soon, he found a circular altar with a diameter of about 30 meters. Not far from the altar, there was a stone tablet with the words, Central Earth Region of the 5 Elements Mystery Realm, written on it. The last time he came across the Mystery Realm, he used his sword to poke around and destroyed the core of the Mystery Realm, causing the Mystery Realm to collapse. He didn't have time to harvest many precious spiritual plants. This time, he didn't dare to touch anything carelessly. He used the swift art to take a look at the other 4 regions. As expected, he found 4 identical steels, each with the following words written on them: Eastern Wood Region of the 5 Elements Mystery Realm, Southern Fire Region of the 5 Elements Mystery Realm, Western Metal Region of the 5 Elements Mystery Realm, Northern Water Region of the 5 Elements Mystery Realm. The 5 Elements Mystery Realm was a circular space with a diameter of about 100 miles. The sky was more than 1,000 meters high. There was no sun, moon, or stars in the sky. Although there was no sunlight, the mystery realm wasn't dark. Moreover, the 5 elements were all present in the mystic realm. Ordinary people could live and reproduce normally here. With a diameter of 100 miles, the earth domain and wood domain could be used to develop farmland, and more than half of the water domain could be used to develop farmland. More than half of the land in the secret realm could be used for farming. Among them, there were many places that could be used to develop spiritual fields. The concentration of spirit chi in the secret realm was not low. The lowest level was comparable to a high-grade Tier 1 spirit vein, while the highest level was comparable to a mid-grade Tier 2 spirit vein. With such a large space, even if all of the mortals of the Wang clan were to migrate over, they would still be able to survive easily. The mission of finding a way out for the family was completed. With this secret realm, when the clan was in danger, they could evacuate as many clansmen as possible into the secret realm. Even if the enemy knew where the clan was hiding, they wouldn't dare to come over. Moreover, outside the secret territory, there was an area of several dozen miles around the Immortals' Cave. Demonic beasts generally wouldn't come here. Even if they were besieged by other forces, the enemy would not be able to hold on for long. If the commotion was too big, it would easily attract demonic beasts, and the attacking enemies would be attacked by the demonic beasts. There was absolutely no problem with the safety of this secret realm. In order to build this 5 elements secret realm into a stable way out for the clan, he had to have a sufficient understanding of the secret realm. At the very least, he had to know what the core of the secret realm was. Since this secret realm was created by the 5 elements spiritual master, it should be recorded in the 5 elements spiritual master's manual. He ordered the clone in the space to flip through the 5 elements spiritual master's manual and search for records regarding this secret realm. Soon, the clone found the records regarding the 5 elements secret realm. According to the manual, the 5 elements spiritual master had discovered this secret realm by chance when he was at the late stage Zifu realm. The original 5 elements secret realm was not like the current scene. Instead, it was filled with magma, and there were only two types of spirit chi, earth and fire. When the five-element spiritual master discovered this secret realm, the magma had already completely dried up. The spirit chi in the secret realm was only at the level of a low-grade tier 1 spirit vein. A secret realm that was about to dry up was naturally worthless. However, the core of this secret realm attracted the interest of the five-element spiritual master. The core of this secret realm was an earth-type spirit fire called the dust-returning flame. The dust-returning flame originated from earth fire. It was originally an earth-type spirit fire formed from the essence of magma. However, as the magma gradually dried up, the fire-type spirit chi became less and less. The dust-returning flame could only rely on earth-type spirit chi to maintain the secret realm. Over time, the fire-type spirit chi in the dust-returning flame gradually disappeared and became a pure earth-type spirit fire. The technique that the five-element spiritual master cultivated had a great need for spirit objects of the five elements. Spiritual items like the spiritual fire that had an extremely strong growth rate were directly related to his future path of cultivation. Spirit fires were extremely rare. There were many legends about fire-type spirit fires, but spirit fires of other types were extremely rare. How could he give up so easily after encountering the dust-returning flame? He wanted to collect the dust-returning flame, but he encountered a huge problem. As the core of the secret realm, the dust-returning flame was bound to the secret realm for good or ill. When the secret realm declined, the dust-returning flame naturally did not fare much better. At that time, the dust-returning flame was already close to being extinguished. It was only sustained by the earth-type spirit chi left in the secret realm. It could not withstand any damage. The moment he forcibly collected the dust-returning flame and severed its connection with the secret realm, the dust-returning flame would definitely be severely damaged and might even be extinguished. The five-element spiritual master did not want to give up on the dust-returning flame and could only let it burn even brighter. In order to strengthen the dust-returning flame, he had to first restore the vitality of the secret realm. When the connection between the secret realm and the flame was not damaged enough to extinguish it, he would collect it. The five-element spiritual master mainly cultivated the Tao of formations. The method he thought of was to set up a formation and draw the spirit vein of the outside world into the secret realm to restore the vitality of the secret realm. His first method was to draw in an earth-type spirit vein to nurture the dust-returning flame. Unfortunately, there was only one spirit vein and the recovery speed of the secret realm was extremely slow. At this rate, it would probably take tens of thousands of years before he could collect the dust-returning flame. How could a Zifu realm cultivator who only had 500 years of lifespan wait? He then used a formation to draw in the metal, wood, water and fire spirit veins. With the five elements coexisting, the recovery speed was much faster. The spirit void land outside the cave abode was formed by his formation after the spirit chi was sucked away. Under the nourishment of the five spirit veins, this secret realm became beautiful. Ever since the five-element spiritual master started cultivating, he did not have a fixed residence and had long wanted to find a suitable cave abode to cultivate. This secret realm was personally remodeled by him and he had a special feeling for it. This secret realm had the attributes of all five elements and was very suitable for the five-element spiritual master to cultivate. In the future, when he was successful in his cultivation, he could also establish a sect here. However, his goal was to collect the dust-returning flame. Once the core of the secret realm was taken away, the secret realm would quickly collapse. He had spent so much effort remodeling the five-element secret realm and could not bear to destroy it just like that. On one hand, it was the dust-returning flame that concerned his future path. On the other hand, it was the secret realm that he had spent so much effort to create. He could not bear to part with either. He found a method from an ancient book to change the core of the secret realm. When collecting the dust-returning flame, the moment the connection between the dust-returning flame and the secret realm was cut, he would immediately use other treasures to establish a connection with the secret realm and replace the dust-returning flame's position. This method was very risky and if it succeeded, everyone would be happy. If it failed, the secret realm, the dust-returning flame and the treasures that replaced the dust-returning flame would be destroyed. However, the five-element spiritual master still decided to do this in the end. He had wandered the world for many years and collected many five-element spiritual materials, including many level 4 spiritual materials. These spiritual materials were not enough to be the core of the secret realm, but Dharma artifacts refined from these spiritual materials might be qualified. The Five Elements spiritual master mainly cultivated the Tao of formations. Although he had dabbled in weapon refinement, it was not enough to refine such Dharma artifacts. He brought these spiritual materials and paid a huge price to hire a level 5 weapon refiner to refine a level 4 middle-grade Dharma artifact. The Five Elements Heaven Suppression Seal. Chapter 140. At that time, the 5 spirit veins in the mystic realm were all upper-grade Tier 3. The Five Elements Heaven Suppression Seal was a mid-grade Tier 4 magic artifact and had an extremely strong suppressive effect. Using it to replace the dust-returning flame, as long as there was no mistake in the process, suppressing the mystic realm and the 5 spirit veins would not be a problem. In order to increase the success rate, the Five Elements spiritual master only replaced the core of the mystic realm after breaking through to the golden core realm. In the end, he successfully replaced the dust-returning flame with the Five Elements Heaven Suppression Seal. After the Five Elements spiritual master refined the dust-returning flame, his cultivation improved rapidly. In less than 200 years, he reached the peak of the golden core realm from the initial stage. However, there were some problems in the process of cultivating the 5 spirits immortal ascension technique, which planted a huge hidden danger. This hidden danger erupted when he formed the Yuanying and underwent the nascent soul tribulation. In his situation at that time, he would definitely die if he continued to undergo the tribulation. Helpless, he used a secret technique to separate the Yuanying and return to the golden core realm. The heavenly tribulation then stopped, and he came back with his life. However, the Five Elements spiritual master's body and soul were severely injured by the heavenly tribulation. He also failed to pass the heavenly tribulation and receive the gift of heaven and earth to recover from his injuries. There was still a chance for his body to recover, but it was too difficult for his soul to recover. His soul could not be recovered, and he no longer had the chance to break through to the Yuanying realm. Since his path was hopeless, the Five Elements spiritual master wanted to take in a few disciples and pass down his legacy. Unfortunately, he was a rare genius, and his standards were too high. After searching for many years, he could not find a satisfactory successor. He could only leave behind his legacy and wait for the fated successor. After he failed to find a successor, he planted many precious spiritual plants in the mountains and rivers, including a true origin fruit tree. The Five Elements spiritual master finally passed away here. Before he died, he took out the dust-returning flame and sealed it in the Five Elements Heaven Suppression Seal. After knowing this, Wang Daoyuan was relieved. The Five Elements spiritual master's soul was severely injured, and his path was hopeless. He reached the limit of his lifespan and naturally passed away. Only cultivators who died before reaching the limit of their lifespan could have a chance to possess someone. After reaching the limit of one's lifespan and passing away, one's soul would become a spirit again and go through reincarnation. There was no chance to possess someone. After the Five Elements spiritual master passed away, the Five Elements Heaven Suppression Seal became an ownerless object and fell into a deep slumber. As a result, its function as the core of the secret realm was reduced, and the concentration of spirit chi in the secret realm was also much lower than before. The high-grade spirit plants collected by the Five Elements Taoist were unable to survive and died. When Wang Daoyuan first checked the mystic realm, he saw many dead spirit plants. On the other hand, some low-grade spirit plants were growing quite well. In the entire Five Elements mystery realm, the highest grade of spirit plants was only second-grade upper grade. When Wang Daoyuan learned that the Five Elements spiritual master had once transplanted the True Essence fruit tree, he instantly became excited. The True Essence fruit tree was a Tier 2 high-grade to Tier 3 low-grade spirit plant. It was still possible for it to be preserved in this mystic realm. Previously, he didn't know that there might be a True Essence fruit tree, so he had only roughly checked the mystic realm. Now, he had to carefully search for it. He released several hundred soul-chasing bees and ordered them to find all the rank 2 spiritual plants in the entire eastern wood region. The entire Five Elements mystery realm was merely 100 miles in diameter, and the wood region only took up 1/5 of it. Such a small area was simply too small for the soul-chasing bees. In less than an hour, the entire eastern wood region had been swept clean. There were quite a few rank 2 spiritual plants found, but most of them were common varieties and did not have high value. There was not much space left in the space of the spirit pearl. When he encountered a spirit plant that was not urgently needed, he first plucked a few seeds and stored them. After all the soul-chasing bees returned, He went to check a few places that were suspected to be true essence fruit trees. He first went to search a few places with dense spirit qi, but those spirit plants were not true essence fruit trees. Only the border area was left, a place where the spirit qi was not dense. How could such a precious spirit plant like the true essence fruit tree be planted in the border area? Although he did not have much hope, it was still better to take a look. Using the swift technique, he arrived at the border area in a few dozen breaths. Using his divine sense, he discovered that this last spirit plant was really similar to the true essence fruit tree. He walked in front and carefully observed every detail of this fruit tree. It was indeed no different from the true essence fruit tree recorded in the ancient records. There were more than 10 withered true essence fruit trees around. They should be the ancestors of this true essence fruit tree. The spirit qi concentration here was only at the level of a low-grade rank 2 spirit vein. He did not expect that the 5-element spiritual master would plant such a precious spirit plant here. In fact, he was judging others by his own standards. True essence fruit was a priceless treasure for a peak qi refinement cultivator like him. But for a golden core cultivator like the 5-element spiritual master, it could only be regarded as an ornamental spirit plant. It was normal to casually throw it in a corner. Besides, before the 5-element spiritual master passed away, the spirit qi concentration here should be at least at the level of a 3rd-grade spirit vein, which was enough for the true essence fruit tree. Previously, everything was ready, except for the true essence fruit or the demonic beast inner core. Now that everything was ready, he only needed to spend a few years to improve his alchemy technique to the 2nd-grade rank 2 spirit vein. Then, he could start refining the foundation establishment pill. This true essence fruit tree was more than 5 feet tall and was relatively small among the true essence fruit trees. There were 9 true essence fruits hanging on the tree. The size was almost the same as a mature true essence fruit, but they seemed to be more immature and their spirit qi fluctuations were relatively weak. They were not too far from maturity. At most, they would be fully mature in 60 to 70 years. This time was calculated according to the spirit qi concentration of a 2nd-grade rank 2 spirit vein. If it was in a place with insufficient spirit qi, it would take even longer. The spirit qi concentration in the space of the spirit pearl was barely at the level of a 2nd-grade rank 2 spirit vein. Even near the peach tree sapling, the spirit qi concentration was slightly higher and more suitable for the growth of spirit plants. But the spirit qi concentration was not at the level of a 2nd-grade rank 2 spirit vein. If the true essence fruit tree was transplanted into the space of the spirit pearl, it might take more than 100 years for it to fully mature. With the flow of time in the space of the spirit pearl, it would only take a few years in the outside world. In the past 10 years, he had harvested and stored a lot of the supplementary herbs and dragon crouching vines needed for the foundation establishment pill. The first 7 blood jade ginseng would still take a few years to mature. These few years were just enough to improve his alchemy technique and strive to become a 2nd-grade rank 2 alchemist as soon as possible. He used his divine sense to probe the roots of this true essence fruit tree, then began to dig outside the range of its roots. He dug out all the places where the roots of the true essence fruit tree extended to and put them into the space of the spirit pearl. This was to avoid damaging the roots and affecting the ripening of the true essence fruit. After solving the problem of the raw materials for the foundation establishment pill, the next step was to deal with this secret realm. According to the last records of the 5-element spiritual master before he passed away, after his death, the 5 elements heaven suppression seal would become an ownerless item. Later generations would only need to recognize the 5-element heaven suppression seal as its master to control the entire 5-element secret realm and take out the returning dust flame from the 5 elements heaven suppression seal. If the owner of the 5 elements heaven suppression seal did not cultivate a cultivation technique of all 5 elements, then even if it recognized a master, it would not be able to unleash its full potential. Its suppressive effect on the 5-element secret realm would be greatly reduced, and it would not be able to balance the 5 spirit veins. The entire secret realm would slowly lose balance of the 5 elements, and eventually become uninhabitable. The 5 elements heaven suppression seal was placed under the altar in the central earth region by the 5-element spiritual master. That was the center of the entire 5-element secret realm, and it was convenient to suppress the secret realm and the 5 spirit veins. Wang Daoyuan used the method of opening the altar left behind by the 5-element spiritual master to activate the restriction on the altar, and the altar began to sink. He stood on the altar and sank into the ground with the altar. After a dozen breaths, the altar stopped sinking. At this moment, he was in a stone cave, and there were densely packed array patterns around him. These array patterns were connected to the 5 spirit veins, and finally gathered at the center of the stone cave, where there was a round white jade platform with a diameter of 5 feet. In the center of the round white jade platform was a large seal, and this was the 5 elements heaven suppression seal. Chapter 142. The 5 elements heaven suppressing seal was 7 inches tall and 6 inches wide. It looked like it was made of jade. The seal was milky white and had complicated patterns engraved on its 4 sides. It should be a high-grade tool pattern. The seal button was carved with the statues of the 5 elements divine beasts: azure dragon, white tiger, black tortoise, vermilion bird, and Kirin. The colors of the 5 divine beasts corresponded to the colors of the 5 elements. Although the 5 elements heaven suppressing seal was of a very high grade, there was nothing special about its method of recognizing its owner. It was still infused with essence blood and left a divine sense imprint on the magic tool. Wang Daoyuan forced out a drop of essence blood and dripped it on the seal button. This drop of essence blood was quickly absorbed and the seal began to flicker with a faint light. He probed into the 5 elements heaven suppressing seal with his divine sense and began to condense the divine sense imprint. The divine sense imprint was the key to controlling magic tools. The stronger the magic tool, the harder it was to condense the divine sense imprint. With his current divine sense cultivation, it was extremely difficult to condense the divine sense imprint on a mid-grade level 4 magic tool. After spending 4 hours, his divine sense was almost completely exhausted. There was still a long way to go before the divine sense imprint could be formed. His divine sense and cultivation had already reached the limit of the Qi refining realm. It would be harder than ascending to the heavens if he wanted to improve even a little. If he wanted to have enough divine sense to leave the divine sense imprint on the 5 elements heaven suppressing seal, he could only wait until he reached the foundation establishment realm. He returned to the altar and closed the restriction on the altar. The altar began to rise. After returning to the ground, everything returned to normal as if the altar had never moved. After failing to control the secret realm, he felt somewhat uneasy staying here. If something unexpected happened in the secret realm, he wouldn't even know how he died. With the true origin fruit in hand and the 5 elements spiritual master's cultivation method, he didn't need to go out before he reached the foundation establishment realm. The Liang family was causing trouble everywhere, and the family was in urgent need of manpower to guard against the Liang family's sneak attacks. It was better to return to the family as soon as possible. Wang Daoyuan left the 5 elements secret realm and returned to the family's territory. He didn't encounter any danger along the way. After returning to the family's territory, he spent a few days circling all of the family's properties and large settlements. After confirming that no one came to cause trouble, he returned to Jade Spring Peak. After returning to the Jade Spring Peak, he greeted the current Grand Elder, 9th Great Uncle, and returned to his abode, preparing to cultivate the 5 spirits immortal transformation technique. The principle of this technique was described in detail in 5 Elements Spiritual Master's book, Experience. The 5 Spirit Immortal Art was created by the 5 Elements Taoist after collecting all kinds of cultivation techniques and drawing on their strengths. This cultivation method solved the biggest weakness of penta-spiritual veins cultivators: the heterogeneous spiritual power. The 5 spirits in the 5 Spirits Immortal Transformation Art refer to spiritual items of the 5 elements. This cultivation method was to refine the essences of the 5 elements spiritual items and condense them into 5 spiritual energy seeds that belong to the 5 elements. During cultivation, the 5 spiritual power seeds would devour the spiritual power of the corresponding attribute and refine it a second time to release pure spiritual power. After the second refinement, the pure spiritual energy would gather around the spiritual energy seed of the corresponding attribute. It would not interfere with the spiritual energy of other attributes, so it would not become impure. When he needed to convert the attribute of his spiritual power, he had to control one type of spiritual power and convert it into another type of spiritual power. Although the converted spiritual power would not be as pure as the original spiritual power, it would still be much stronger than the spiritual power that had not been refined a second time. The conversion of spiritual power was usually done during battle. When one type of spiritual power was used up too much, the spiritual power of other attributes would need to be converted to replenish it. At this time, the purity of the spiritual power would not have much of an impact. As long as the spiritual power was pure and could condense into high-quality true essence when increasing his cultivation, it would be enough. In addition, the 5 spirits immortal transformation art would refine spiritual items and condense them into spiritual energy seeds, as well as the pure spiritual power from the second refinement, would all have the characteristics of the spiritual items. For example, if the essence of the heaven hellish gold was refined and the metal attribute spiritual energy seed was condensed, then the metal attribute spiritual energy seed and the second refinement would have a trace of the heaven hellish gold's evil aura. As his cultivation increased, the metal attribute spiritual energy seed would also become stronger. The evil aura of the second refinement would also become stronger. Back then, when the 5 elements Taoist had obtained the dust returning flame, he had refined it into an earth attribute spiritual energy seed. The spirit fire itself had great growth potential. After being refined into a seed, it would automatically grow rapidly and quickly surpass the other 4 seeds. The 5 elements Taoist's cultivation level also increased rapidly along with the growth of the spiritual energy seed. In less than 200 years, he had cultivated from the early stage of the Golden Core Realm to the peak stage of the Golden Core Realm. However, success and failure were due to the dust returning flame. For a cultivator who cultivated the 5 spirits immortal transformation art to break through to the Yuanying realm, in addition to shattering their golden core and fusing their souls to form the Yuanying, they also had to fuse the 5 spiritual energy seeds into the Yuanying before the Yuanying took shape. The Yuanying cultivator's spiritual power and true essence were all in the Yuanying. If the spiritual energy seeds were not fused, then they would not be effective. If the Yuanying was first formed and then fused with the spiritual energy seeds, then the Yuanying might reject the spiritual energy seeds. Therefore, fusing the spiritual energy seeds while shattering the golden core to form the nascent soul was the best choice. The 5 elements Taoist had already successfully formed the Yuanying and fused the spiritual energy seeds into the Yuanying, successfully attracting the nascent soul tribulation. However, the spiritual energy seed formed by the dust returning flame grew too quickly and left the other 4 spiritual energy seeds far behind. After the 5 spiritual energy seeds fused with the Yuanying, the difference between the earth spiritual energy seed and the other 4 spiritual energy seeds was too great. It could not achieve the balance of the 5 elements and instead conflicted with each other. The 5 elements Taoist was currently facing the nascent soul tribulation. Suddenly, there was a problem in the Yuanying, causing the spiritual energy to become chaotic. He had to divert a large portion of his spiritual energy to suppress the spiritual energy seeds. The nascent soul tribulation might not be able to withstand it even if he resisted it with all his strength, let alone diverting a large portion of his spiritual energy to suppress the conflict between the spiritual energy seeds and the Yuanying. In the end, he was severely injured by the heavenly tribulation. In order to save his life, he had to dispel the Yuanying and split his divine soul to form a new golden core. He barely managed to preserve his golden core realm cultivation. The 5 elements Taoist had repeatedly emphasized in the experience and the biography of the 5 elements Taoist that if future generations cultivated the 5 spirits immortal transformation art, they must pay attention to the balance of the 5 spiritual energy seeds. They must not be greedy for a fast cultivation speed, as it would leave behind a fatal danger in the future. Unless they could obtain 5 different types of spiritual fire, they must not directly refine the spiritual fire. Instead, they must slowly extract its essence like how they refine other spiritual objects. In this way, the condensed spiritual energy seeds would have the characteristics of spiritual fire and would not automatically grow, causing them to go out of control. If they were lucky enough to obtain the 5-element spiritual fire, it would not be too late to fuse the spiritual fire into the condensed spiritual energy seeds. After learning the contents of the 5 spirits immortal transformation art and the lesson of the 5 elements Taoist, Wang Daoyuan began to cultivate the 5 spirits immortal transformation art. The 5 spirits immortal transformation art was divided into 5 levels, and each level condensed a spiritual energy seed. Qi refining stage cultivators could only cultivate the first level, foundation establishment stage cultivators could cultivate up to the 3rd level, and purple mansion stage cultivators could cultivate up to the 5th level. Before foundation establishment stage, he could only cultivate the 1st level and condense a spiritual energy seed. Each of the 5 elements had its own merits, and there was no difference in quality. It was fine to condense a spiritual energy seed of any element first. As far as he was concerned, it was best to condense a water or metal spiritual energy seed as the first seed. This was because he cultivated the water dragon art and the golden rock wrestling dragon art. With a spiritual energy seed, his spiritual energy would be purer, and it would increase the power of his spiritual energy. In addition, the spiritual energy seed would have the characteristics of the spiritual energy seed refined, and its lethality would increase by quite a bit. However, he did not have any high-quality metal or water spiritual objects. If he randomly used a trash spiritual object to condense a spiritual energy seed, it would affect the quality of the spiritual energy and the speed of his cultivation. It would also be a waste of the opportunity to increase the spiritual energy seed's special abilities. Although he could refine other spiritual objects in the future to replace the spiritual energy seed, he would have to start from scratch and it would be a waste of time. Chapter 143. Currently, he only had one type of spirit item that was suitable for the 5-spirit immortal transformation art. It was the green flame on the top bud of the peach tree in the space of the spirit pearl. That was a wood attribute spirit fire. Furthermore, it could emit an aura that allowed spirit plants to evolve and had the effect of reviving them. In the book, Records of Beiyuan, written by the 5-element spiritual master, there was some information about spirit fires. The green spirit fire on the peach tree sapling belonged to the life spirit fire category of spirit fires. The so-called life spirit fire was a flame that some high-grade spirit plants used their own life force to condense. When a high-grade spirit plant suffered an injury that was difficult to heal and was on the verge of death, it would condense all its life force into the life spirit fire in an attempt to revive itself. However, spirit plants that could successfully condense the life spirit fire were already extremely rare. Those that could successfully revive the dead were even rarer in the world. Even if a spirit plant condensed the life spirit fire, if it could not be revived and the spirit tree died completely, the life spirit fire would also be extinguished. Once the spirit tree succeeded in reviving, the life spirit fire would gradually be converted into life force and absorbed. The life spirit fire could only be found on high-grade spirit trees that were reviving from the dead. Wang Daoyuan had also coincidentally arrived. That mystic realm should have been severely damaged, causing the core of the mystic realm, which was the peach tree, to be on the verge of death. The peach tree had successfully condensed the life spirit fire and was in the process of reviving. However, it was interrupted unknowingly by him. The peach tree sapling now was the product of that huge peach tree's revival. The situation of the peach tree sapling was very strange. He did not know if it was a success or a failure. If it was a failure, the peach tree sapling should have died long ago. However, it was clearly still alive. Although it was not growing, its spirit energy fluctuations were getting stronger. If it was a success, it should have converted the life spirit fire into life force and absorbed it again. However, not only did it not absorb the life spirit fire, it was even strengthening it continuously. Right now, the life spirit fire was already more than 3 inches tall. With Wang Daoyuan's knowledge, he truly could not determine what state the peach tree was in. The life spirit fire would continuously produce spirit chi that contained life force. This life force could help spirit plants evolve and even revive them from the dead. Of course, this resurrection was just a saying. At most, it could revive a spirit plant that was on the verge of death. Spirit plants that were truly dead couldn't be revived. For humans and demon beasts, the effect of the fire of life was not as strong as it was for spirit plants, but it still had a very good healing effect. Even though refining the essence of the flame of life and condensing a wood-attributed spiritual power seed didn't improve his fighting prowess, he was still able to do so. However, it would greatly increase their survivability. He didn't lack battle prowess at all. Among cultivators of the same level, there were very few who could fight him. In such a situation, increasing one's survivability might be more important. Spiritual items suitable for cultivating the 5-spirit immortal transformation art could only be found by chance. Now that there was one in his hands, how could he miss it? He didn't want to think too much about it. Instead, he condensed a ball of wood attribute spiritual energy and sent it into the spirit pearl space. His soul awareness also entered the spiritual pearl and controlled the cluster of spiritual energy to envelop a small part of the spiritual flame of life. The power of his divine sense instantly separated the spiritual fire in the spiritual power ball from the other parts. This part of the spiritual fire was still able to continue burning under the cover of the wood attribute's spiritual power. The spiritual fire that was still attached to the top bud of the peach tree quickly recovered and was not affected. Then, he took the spiritual power ball with the spiritual fire out of the spiritual pearl space. The 5-spirit immortal transformation art was of the same origin as the 5 elements immortal transformation art. He didn't need to spend much effort to change his cultivation, and could directly cultivate the 5-spirit immortal transformation art. He circulated his cultivation technique and refined the essence of the spiritual fire. The essence of the spiritual fire was the special spiritual energy in the spiritual fire. After repeating this 5 or 6 times, Wang Daoyuan finally condensed a green spiritual power seed the size of a grain of rice in his dantian. After the spiritual power seed was formed, the moment he circulated his cultivation technique, the seed would absorb the wood attribute spiritual energy in his dantian. After refining it, it would release a purer spiritual energy. The spiritual power seed had just been formed and was still very weak. The second refining of spiritual energy was very slow and the refining effect wasn't strong enough. The refined spiritual energy was only slightly purer than the original spiritual energy, and was far from the spiritual energy of cultivators with the wood attribute celestial spiritual roots. However, the refined spiritual energy had a weak vitality. When using this spiritual energy to cast healing spells, the healing effect would be much stronger. The spiritual power seed would slowly strengthen itself through the second refining of spiritual energy. In addition, continuing to refine the essence of the spiritual fire of life could also strengthen the spiritual power seed. Successfully condensing the spiritual power seed also meant that he had begun cultivating the first level of the 5-spirit immortal transformation art. After finishing his cultivation, Wang Daoyuan walked out of his cave residence, wanting to stroll around Jade Spring Peak. However, just as he walked out of the gate, he received a message from the clan leader, ordering him to go to the assembly hall for an elders' meeting. When he arrived at the assembly hall, the clan leader Wang Jian said, "Since everyone is here, let's begin." Everyone knows about the attack on Iron Verdant Peak this time. Dao Yuan guessed that there were 2 possibilities. 1. The Liang clan was luring the tiger away from the mountain and continuing to target Jing Iron Mountain. 2. The Liang clan changed their target and wanted to target the Meng clan. These days, I sent people to inquire about the situation of the Yang and Meng clans. Indeed, as Dao Yuan guessed, both clans were attacked by rogue cultivators. Our Wang clan was attacked the least. Only Iron Verdant Peak was attacked. 3 of the Yang clan's properties were attacked, and 5 of the Meng clan's properties were attacked. Fortunately, the attackers were all Qi refinement rogue cultivators and didn't cause much damage. However, it's hard to say whether or not there will be Foundation establishment rogue cultivators later on. Although we were attacked the least, we still can't let down our guard. I'll rearrange the manpower to guard against rogue cultivators. The clan's southern area is large, far from Jade Spring Peak, and close to the Liang clan, so I'll be personally responsible for it. The northern area is a mix of good and bad people. Although it's not far from Jade Spring Peak, there are more properties there, so Xueqi will be responsible for it. The eastern area is close to Heaven/Mountain Range, and the clan doesn't have any properties there. Xueqi and I can take care of it. The western area has few properties, and it's not far from Jade Spring Peak. It's also close to the Meng clan, so the Liang clan's goal is to not let us help the Meng clan. Therefore, they'll do their best to pin down our forces in other places. The possibility of causing trouble here isn't high, so Grand Elder can take care of it. No one had any objections, so he continued to ask, "Xueqi is still overseeing Clear Glass Market. Should Dao Yuan go and replace him?" Since they wanted to use properties to tie him down again, he pretended to be considerate of the clan and said, "Clan leader, it's better to let third brother go. It's better for me to guard the clan's properties in the western area. Grand Elder is already so old, it's not good to let him worry about such a small matter. Third brother also needs more experience." After he became the clan's elder, he also knew some of the clan's secrets. For example, 12th Uncle Wang Shui had 2 spirit veins. His water spirit vein was 8 inches and 7 centimeters, not far from a heavenly spirit vein. Third brother Wang Dao Chong had a fire spirit vein that was 8 inches and 1 centimeter. Unfortunately, he had 3 spirit veins, which was much worse than Wang Shui. Heavenly spirit veins were rarely seen in hundreds of years. An 8-inch spirit vein could be considered a first-rate genius anywhere. Wang Daochong's main spirit vein was more than 8 inches, so his cultivation increased extremely quickly. 10 years ago, when he was just over 30 years old, he broke through to the peak of Qi condensation and became the second clan elder of the Dao generation. Wang Jian thought for a while and said, "All right, since you're not willing to go to Clear Glass Market, then let Dao Chong go. He also needs experience." You've been out for nearly 20 years, so your experience and strength are enough. I'm very relieved to leave such a small matter to you. You're also not someone who can stay idle. If the Meng clan's properties are attacked, you can help, but don't take the initiative to find trouble with the Liang clan. The plan of our 3 clans is still to prioritize self-preservation. When old Liang dies, we'll find the Liang clan to settle the score. We can't force the Liang clan into a life-and-death struggle. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.